the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Giuseppe Montesano, Twine to Twigle, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Golden McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealons, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Data to change your perceptions. However, you could create a matrix of reality entirely on paper, an idea. You could implant somebody's mind with an idea and they'll be in a matrix just as much as if you jacked them into a machine.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Think about the heliocentric model. People believe that's where they live and they act it out as if they live there. Are they not living in a matrix? A simulated reality that's simulated by an idea?
Right.
And they fight for it, AI.
Just like in the movie, the girl in the red dress, right? Everyone who's not awake is an agent of the system. And some people who think they're awake are only deluded into thinking they're awake. And so what does that mean? They're still an agent of the system.
Well, how do you know the deluded ones from the ones that are really out of the system?
In the Matrix, he says some people are so dependent, so hopelessly immersed in the Matrix that they will fight to defend it. That's what we experience.
Yeah.
Yes, and I will submit to you, which you missed earlier, that many flat earthers fall in that same category.
You want to give us an example? What do you mean? What category?
The category of people who are still within a matrix that they're fighting to defend because they're not actually free. They just changed one paradigm of control and sheepness for another paradigm of control and sheepness. So they just changed their group of leaders and influencers, but they're still led and influenced. They're not actually forging their own path.
Would that be in the Witsit crew there?
Well, if the shoe fits, it fits.
Not necessarily, but
Well, because I think he's a leader in that group and people follow him.
Hey, listen up, Neil. There are people who attend FED that are here for charisma and drama, not for freedom or knowledge, right? So there's people that follow all kinds of charismatic people. So in a group of people that you say, "Oh, well, my group's legit," even among a group that's legit, let's say, there's people there who aren't legit. They're not there for the legit reasons.
Good morning. Good morning.
Radio check.
Radio check.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, you've been chatting to us, John. Did you not realise you've been chatting to us?
Nobody actually responded directly. I didn't know.
Common occurrence.
We got 2 5s, 10, and a 4.
I like to tell myself it's because they're pondering what I've said, as opposed to just nobody's listening. Glass half full and all that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Don't get me wrong, there is occasions where I'll start a conversation going with the sole intention of walking away and go making a coffee. You know what I mean?
Don't we all?
Dude,
Hey,
you got to
guys.
learn that art when you have a let's just say certain women in your life, and they want to call you on the phone, and you're like, okay, how am I going to navigate around attending to this phone call while still doing all of the things I need to do? And you have to put your mic on mute. You have to put your headset down. You have to say something that's going to make her talk for like 10 minutes so you can accomplish something.
Exactly.
Amen. Can I get a witness?
It's just something you can't do in person, isn't it? When you're in this situation, you know, short of being on camera, which obviously, depending on the circumstance, you might be, but failing that, you can actually, you know, get somebody rolled up and then just walk away, literally, and they wouldn't know any different because you're not in front of them. I bring it up because there's a certain power in that can be exercised if you do it well in this setting, right? What we're in now, like a Hangout or a Discord server or whatever. If you're having a discussion, you can use that to your advantage if there's an audience listening, obviously. And Dell tried to do it yesterday. So that whole debacle with him saying, I'm eating soup, that's a similar sort of thing. Sort of trying to behave in a way that this is so unimportant to me that I am so nonchalant about this discussion that I can just sit here having my dinner and it doesn't really matter to me. That was what he was trying to achieve. Now that only has strength if you just put forward a really cracking argument or handed your opponent their ass. But he didn't. So he didn't really have the effect he wanted. But that's what he was going for. Again, only
Well, yeah, you can't really.
I was just going to say only achievable in the
really
Matrix. But go on, John. Sorry, that was the last statement. Only achievable in the Matrix. Go on.
I was about to say you can't really say you're eating soup after you threaten or give a thinly veiled threat that involves you meeting someone in person. You know,
I tried to
doesn't
get that
really
in.
have the same effect.
I tried to get it in, but I didn't have the time to find it to put it into the edit, so I edited out. Obviously, I like to edit out when they start denying their own statements. So that's the bit I chose. But for that very reason that you've just given, there was a point where he's given his thinly veiled threat, then he started eating soup, and my response while he is something like, you wouldn't be eating soup in person, sunshine. Because he said something like, you wouldn't be saying that to my face, or something like that. But yeah,
That was very confusing to me yesterday. I don't know why he came in that way. Don't get it.
On agenda, he's done it everywhere he's been so far that I've seen him. That's his agenda. Got a modus operandi.
Look, if you have a group, let's just say you're a charismatic person in your niche, and you have a group of people that are on a feedback loop with you on a journey together, right? And there's competing information out there. One thing you could do is address the competing information point for point, or you could just go shit on the presenter so that the other people, whenever they see that presenter, smell the shit and don't want to be around it. Right? So, Nathan's a horrible person, therefore his position is wrong. Right? And so then you say, oh, well, Nathan didn't do this, this, or this. And then the other people are like, oh, yeah, I don't want to hear anything he has to say. And the feedback loop is narrowed down to your charismatic circle, right?
It was great though because Nathan didn't let him get him in that. He said, "What claim, Neil or Dale?"
Yeah, I like that too because if he had something, why I was questioning, why don't you come in the way you do your show? You tell everybody this little apparatus you made up and this little demonstration you made up. He didn't come in that way. I had to ask him about it. He had no proof of anything. He was trying to get Nathan to claim RGD so he could try to pull that apart. I don't know what he was doing here. I'm still confused today.
Well, if you have a really crappy claim you don't want to try to defend it. You want to try to attack other people's claims. It's the best way to do it now.
Well,
the point
because
is
then
smelling
Nathan
shit.
exposed them.
The point is smelling shit, or at least trying to make somebody else smell like shit and failing.
Right, like say you get sprayed by a skunk, right? Well, you could either take a bath in tomato juice and get all that acidic to get that off, or just get everybody sprayed by a skunk so you don't, nobody can tell who stinks anymore.
Morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, without Nathan making a claim, Dale couldn't assert his position because his position was that silly.
That shit speaks for itself.
Doesn't really matter if it's silly if you believe it. Look how many people believe they're sticking to the side of a magical spinning water ball currently, and they believe it.
But whenever they want to talk about the magical non-force that you can think of as a force but isn't a force anymore because it's bendy space-time, they want to speak about it in false dichotomy with something else. They never just want to claim it on its own. They want to know why. Why aren't we floating away then?
Dilate stand their outrageous claim. So if you can offer it up in false dichotomy with something that the opponent's passionate about arguing, the outrageous, nonsensical stupidity of Earth rising up as a primary claim can get lost in the weeds of discussion about relative density disequilibrium and the two opponents' sides' positions on that particular subject. What I got to the nub of yesterday with Dell in person, which I couldn't get on anyone else, is what is it that you're actually using to claim that Earth's moving up? And the answer is relative density. Well, how so? Well, because there's a density gradient, Earth's moving up. That is his claim. Okay, well, no. First prove your primary position, and then we'll have a figure out whether or not your primary position is A, actually happening, and B, causing anything. But he didn't do either. He's just got this assumption that, well, because there's a density gradient, that's Earth rising up. That is basically his position, which he admitted to. Then denied, which is the bit I trimmed out.
Right. The most egregious thing that stuck out to me was he seemed to say that the Earth is not accelerating upwards. It's actually just moving at a constant speed upwards, which wouldn't result in the effects of things accelerating towards it via the equivalence principle, right? And it's like when you jump out of an airplane, right? You're at essentially zero speed relative to the Earth. Then you proceed to travel down towards the Earth. You actually pick up speed, which means you're accelerating. So a Earth in constant motion wouldn't cause that effect. So you need a secondary thing. So it's not true that the Earth moving up would be the specific and only cause. You're missing something. Unless I'm mistaken, and he did mean that the Earth is accelerating upwards, but I'm pretty sure he was asked, and he said, no, it's moving at a constant speed.
Yeah, exactly. What's the definition of acceleration?
Yeah, you can hear a bit of that clip if you want.
Uh,
I've got a couple of minutes.
change in rate of speed over time. The definition of speed is a change in distance along a vector over time.
But these
So then,
these are not these definitions are not your problem, AI. They're Dell's.
no, but
Right, so
deceleration
you
is the same thing.
go ahead. What?
Deceleration is the same thing.
Yeah, it's a change in rate of speed over time, which is that's deceleration. It's essentially negative
Thank you.
acceleration, or just acceleration, in the opposite way. But the point is that you need, in order for any of these things to occur, you need displacement in 3D space from one point to another over time, right? Either increasing in its rate or maintaining its rate. If it's maintaining its rate, that's speed. If it's increasing its rate, that's acceleration.
And I think the reason he does that is so that you can have this conversation with him and get the ambiguity out of the way without focusing on the fact that there's an outrageous claim that Earth's moving up tied up in that discussion. Instead, you're just discussing about acceleration versus constant rates. Well, of what? Earth moving up? Well, let's just focus on that. Yeah, your stupid, outrageous claim, rather than discussing various aspects of our life so that he can affirm the consequent with it. Because he's just going to say, if Earth rising up, then, in this case, different rates versus acceleration and the outcome thereof, therefore Earth rising up. No, let's just focus on the first bit that you're assuming. Earth rising up. What a bloody outrage. What nonsense. Everything else we discuss might or might not be true of our reality, but it isn't going to be used to affirm the consequent, which is all this is, Del. It's the only trick. It's a one-trick pony.
By the way, I knew that answer. I just couldn't get to my mute button. I knew it was that.
Of course you do.
Good morning.
Name that name. Dun, dun,
Morning.
dun, dun, dun.
Right, let's have a listen.
You know, I didn't catch all of the show yesterday, but what you just said obviously happened after I couldn't catch the show. So if he knew all that at the beginning, he could have just stated his claim succinctly, properly. But
Bear
you
with me a second.
you just said that it came out later.
Okay, just bear with me.
So
What it was proving. And you didn't say it was proving Earth's moving up. It's because you seem to be under the misapprehension that you can replace Earth moving up with a density gradient.
Is the Earth station?
Is it a stutter much?
Is the Earth stationary, Nathan?
I'm not making a claim, Del. You're claiming Earth moves up and then substituting that claim which you are yet to demonstrate with a density gradient.
There is a density gradient, and
That's not Earth moving up, though, is it, Dumbo?
I claim that it is. I claim that it is.
It's not Earth moving up.
I claim that it is.
It's not Earth moving up.
Yes, it is.
Oh, really? There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Del thinks that a density gradient is Earth moving up.
There is a density gradient, and
That's not Earth moving up, though, is it, Dumbo?
yes, it is.
Oh, really? No, it isn't, Del. That's just your king stupid, outrageous claim.
The gradient.
No, you're confusing density gradient with a king stupid claim that Earth moves up. They're not the same, Del. There you go.
Steel trap.
right. So my point is,
where we are.
go on, Chaka.
That's
No,
what I
you're good. Go ahead, man.
No, I was going to say, because, well, that was good to hear, by the way. But if I had a claim, I would have started off with that, what he just said at the end. I would, oh, you want my claim about this? Yes, boom, boom, boom. I would have done it right at the beginning. It would have saved a lot of anger issues between both sides,
really? It
because
caused
one is
them.
hiding.
It caused them. Me asking him repeatedly what his claim was, trying to tie down what he's actually claiming, took about 15 to 20 minutes and stirred up
Yes.
quite a lot of anger in Del, just to try and get him to clarify what he was bloody claiming.
Right. And so when you just take a step aside and say, why is there anger in debates? It's because the clear statements were not made at the beginning. And there's this cat and mouse game. And you caught that at the beginning, the part that I caught of yesterday's show. And I'm saying, I don't think Dell understands that Nathan's using a higher skill of debate knowledge here. He's not going to give him a false dichotomy. He wants Dell, without anybody else's statements, to make a claim. And Dell was fighting that. And that was clearly seen.
Yeah, because his claim's outrageous and stupid, and it sounds it when it's put into isolation rather than in false dichotomy. Like I say, he's a one-trick pony, and that's the only thing he's got to fall upon. Using someone else's outrageous claim, either globe earthers or flat earthers that are making claims in this regard, be it ether, relative density disequilibrium. If they've got a positive assertion to be making, he's going to use it in false dichotomy to dilute how stupid his earthward rising up claim actually is.
Yeah. Poor Dell.
Not really. After this discussion, we probably won't talk about him again.
No, it's no, go on, John.
I know, I'm just gonna put some empathy out there for him. He's obviously been deceived by an idea. And he's trying to justify it in all the wrong ways. And I've been in a relationship like that before, so I can get it.
Well, the same thing happens.
I can't believe he asked Nathan. Is the Earth stationary? Like that was a gotcha. When he's been running around for years telling people how stationary it is. Wonderful.
That's the main thing, right? Dell was known. That's why we all loved him. He said, "I'm only gonna claim what I can demonstrate," and then that was inverted. It was weird.
Maybe Russian Vids was right all along.
Oh, how so, Nathan?
Russian Vids just says he's just a con artist out to deceive people. Well, when he's literally going out of his way to say, I'll only disseminate truth that I can demonstrate, and then he starts tossing bottles with various liquids in and asserting that Earth is moving up. What else? What, that's why I say maybe Russian Vids was right all along about Dell. What else can I say? Unless you don't know what Russian Vids says about Dell, then obviously I'm not going to disseminate that. You'd have to go and watch a bit of Russian Vids.
It sounds like that's what I need to do.
Definitely.
He could have just been upfront and said, the way I view relative density, this equilibrium is this way, and made the claim upfront and center so we could all understand. But it became this back and forth, you refusing to give him something to argue against and just say, make a claim, just make your claim, state your case, just tell us.
How have you got today?
Good morning, everyone.
Hey.
Well, hello.
Good morning.
It's good to have you all. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Me lungs say no.
Well, the to-go video on YouTube that everyone uses is a guy who brings in pressurized gas in containers and then uses a 40-foot pipe, which is a container with one end open, and says, see, I've got gas pressure without a container.
That same guy needed a citation to tell him that container, the pipe, was a container. So he might have to start there.
Well, this is my point. It's like you're watching this video of their best defense. This is their best defense against that question. And you're saying, unbelievable.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
You got to prove it's a spherical Earth first.
You're going to need R for that.
Okay. Any evidence of the R value, that's Earth radius value?
You're going to need to prove there's a molten iron core first.
You're going to need some elevation angles off of flat Earth.
Right, on screen now.
Dimensional some angles from hell.
There you go.
I don't know about angles from hell, but in terms of the acquisition of angles to stars in this instance, on screen right-hand diagram is triangulation by way of an elevation angle measurement to 3 stars, S1, S2, and S3. Now, in order to have right angles below the ground position, which is the position directly below each star, which is logged in the almanac, you need a flat Earth to achieve that 90 degree. I'm just going to point my mouse at what I'm talking about here. This is the ground position. It's below the star, and when you measure the angle from here to get the position in the almanac for the particular time, which is why you take a chronometer, aka watch, out to sea with you, so that you can log the angle at a particular time. So then you can look up where that star is above, directly above, where its ground position is at that particular moment in time. And once you have that angle off a flat Earth and 90 degree at the ground position of a star, you can draw a circle. Now, this circle is called a circle of equal elevation, or area of equal altitude. Now, that requires Earth to be flat in order to achieve it. I bring this up because we're going to be covering, for the second time, Red Rhetoric. So Red Rhetoric has made a video including, I don't know if he's a videographer, but another person he's named as Astronomy Live. I don't quite know who that dude is, but nevertheless, both of them are proving flat Earth over and over again by way of elevation angle measurements. So they're then going to move forward in this particular video to describe how they're going to acquire distance to the sun by using flat Earth elevation angle measurements. Is there any comment, as we've already got into this? Probably not. If we just want to move on, then I'll do that now. Let me know.
Yeah, real quick.
Yep,
Well,
go
you're
ahead.
gonna need three. You're gonna need three circles of equal altitude, not just one,
Yeah,
to get your fix.
we'll come
But
back to you.
using the same plane, the same horizontal baseline for the three readings.
Yeah, I'll just elaborate on what Jorge's just said. You can go in a minute, Tenth, if you can just hold that thought. What Jorge's saying is, on these circles, let's say for the sake of argument that this position is 500 miles away from you. Well, if that's true for this and this, yeah, then you've got between these two positions 1,000 miles on a flat Earth. Now they're extending out based on a circle, area of equal altitude, circle of equal elevation, however you want to term it, in all directions from your location, flat in every direction. So you're talking about tens of thousands of square miles in all directions that's being measured and navigated, with the prerequisite that Earth must be flat to do this. Correct, Jorge. Good point. Not just one circle. All of this, which is potentially thousands of miles of flat Earth. Go ahead, Tenth.
Yeah, exactly what Jorge is saying. However, I want to add that if you look at the picture, you see three circles, and you see the angles are all the same on S1, S2, and S3. But in reality, the navigator with the sextant will have maybe 50 degree to a star that might have a 30 degree to another star, and might have, say, 45 degree to another star. So you can imagine in your mind these angles being different, but the baseline all being flat, and a 90 where the star's GP is, and when the three circles meet where they cross, that's where the navigator is. So imagine one circle 2,200 miles from the center, and the other one maybe 1,000, maybe, and the other one maybe say 800, whatever. So all that, it has to be flat.
That sounds a bit, I don't know. Correct me if I'm off, but if the biggest, what am I trying to say here? If the measurement to the horizon supposedly is 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and you're saying that we can measure something 5,000 miles away, 2,000 miles away, that doesn't that seem a little off?
It's not.
Yeah, good point.
not conclusive at all.
5,400 miles
It
being
gets
the
worse
most.
than that. It's worse than that. You get three circles, right, Tenth?
Well, the idea is three for sure puts you. Sometimes two works because you know where you are by dead reckoning and what part of, if you're in the Atlantic Ocean or if you're in some other ocean, you're able to understand where you are. But three is for sure the best way. But to Chocolate's point, it's 90 degrees is the most you can have. 90 times 60 is 5,400 nautical miles of flat baseline. Can never be anything else. So the largest distance using the 90 rule is 5,400 nautical miles. So if you're sighting something just at the horizon, that's 5,400 nautical miles, okay? And if you're sighting something, at 50 degrees, 50 minus 90 leaves you 40. 40 times 60 nautical miles, 2,400. nautical miles. So you got one star 5,400 miles away from you, requiring a flat baseline from you all the way to the star's GP, and the other one 2,400 miles.
Yeah, but it gets worse though, because if you can actually observe Polaris 1 degree south of the equator, that is one circle, and that single circle is greater than the geometry of the Earth allows to. Now, if you do a second reading to any other star by using the same horizontal plane, I mean, the plane itself is greater than the geometry allows for the sphere. It has to.
That's kind of my point. Like if you're on a boat and you're using a sextant to measure these nautical miles, I don't know how tall these boats are supposed to be, but that observer height wouldn't give you that type of distance to this supposed measurement to the horizon. But now you're saying you can measure 2,000, maybe even 5,000 nautical miles?
Well, the horizon, in this sense, chocolate, is used to create the vertical of the star. See, to get in the ocean as a navigator on a boat that's rocking, is very difficult to get your zenith, your 90. This is why in this diagram it shows the 90 zenith of the stars rather than the observer. So you use the horizon as a flat horizontal. You rock the sextant left to right until you find perpendicularity of it to where you say mark. So that's where you got a right angle happening right there. And so you say, at that point, you go to the books where they tell you where these stars are at every moment, second, month, the year, date. For thousands of years, they don't change, okay? And then you say, this is my time, so you get your longitude. And so then you say, this is where I'm at based on this. So the horizon is used to create a horizontal to where you can rock your sextant and get the zenith, the 90 of the star. Once you got the 90 of the star, then it's the co-altitude, that white space from the top of the right angle to where the observer is. And that's your zenith distance. It gives your zenith immediately because it's a box.
Okay.
Now,
Before
you
we
can't have a
Yes,
box on a
and there's
curved Earth.
before we
Hang on.
continue,
You can't have a box on a curved Earth. I'm sorry.
correct left-hand
And,
diagram.
and that was going to be my point. What's supposed to happen at the horizon? What happens there? What's that supposed to be?
It's supposed to
Well,
be
in
falling
their
away
view-
from you. It's supposed to be falling away as you described. The distance to
Exactly.
horizon 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. But if it is falling away from you, you can't use it to establish level and have that level extend out thousands of miles. Exactly, chocolate.
Exactly my point. Yep.
Okay.
That's
that's
why
on their rhetoric, if you allow me just to finish with this, on their rhetoric, I mean, according with the globe measurement, the radius value for the sphere is the distance between the equator and the 90-degree angle to Polaris at the center of the Earth.
Correct.
So that circle of equal altitude is the 39 and 59 miles that we are familiar with.
Correct. So
of a circle.
Correct. So you're talking about the limitation to the angle when measuring Polaris to give you latitude lines. Well, yes, if you want to look at it in one way, rather than using these various different navigation stars as depicted as S1, 2, and 3 on this diagram, with the left-hand diagram being how it wouldn't work because you couldn't get 90s, and how it does work on the right-hand side because it's on a flat plane. But you're talking about an area of equal elevation that you could describe as the equator. In other words, if you were to measure the angle to Polaris at its minimum, the area of equal elevation would be from its 90 all around its position, and that is the equator. Well, that means you've got an area of equal elevation from the equator to the center point of Earth in their model. Well, regardless of their model having the center point of an axis at the North Pole, in reality, we simply have an area of equal elevation for Polaris. So in this diagram, if S1 is Polaris, once you reach the minimum where S1 is, instead of way up here in the sky, instead of that, you've got Polaris right down here. So you're measuring the angle at a couple of degrees above the horizon. Well, that's your minimum angle if you want. when it reaches the horizon. That's the equator. That's the minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris. That means that there's an area of equal elevation between you on the equator and Polaris. There's a straight flat line between you, right, Jorge? That's
Correct.
your point.
Correct. I just put a picture of if someone wants to share with you, maybe Rogers can do that. Where is the measurement for the globe? The trigonometric, the spherical trigonometry for the sphere, with the radius of 3959, and they have the square lines, the boxes at the center of the sphere in hell. You have the 90-degree angle between the zero of Polaris and the zero of the equator line. And that distance is actually the radius. Because if you are doing navigation and you're gonna need that radius value between you and the 90-degree of Polaris in order to draw this circle that on this picture, it's actually a circle. It's just reified as to be a sphere. But this is exactly how it's done for navigation. And this is the measurement that they got for the radius of Earth. It's the radius of a circle, not a sphere.
Right. Okay, before we move on to the video, I'm going to ask one final housekeeping question. So I'm going to actually do this on camera. Is there any scientific evidence for gravity?
No.
Anybody at all?
It's
Just
not
no.
science.
I'm hoping someone will postulate an actual answer today. We'll
Okay,
see.
so gravity, what is gravity? Is it mass attracting mass, or is it the conceptual bending of length, width, depth, and time? It might be real. Gravity's real in the mathematics. But can we agree on terms? What is gravity?
Well, I'm hoping someone's going to tell me.
We've tried to say, can we science it? So we're going to be looking for a cause of an effect, yeah, a cause and effect relationship. So I'm not sure who just spoke there, but fundamentally, look, we're not able to even define the effect, the natural phenomena that's occurred for us to call gravity yet before we could even look at a suppositional cause for it. So in terms of evaluating it with scientific method, no.
You can't determine the effect of an effect.
Well,
Well,
I think what Adam is saying.
One sec. Summary of Dell's argument. This is via Retro Bill Super Chat. Rich boy, Jimmy, knob cheese, tampon eating, some soup and tea, the end. Hashtag Earth still rising up. Retro Bill. I've just got one thing to say to you, Retro Bill, in that regard. So this was the whole point of me going on camera. All I got to say.
Alrighty then.
Okay, should we do the video?
Well, if
Well,
I might just say something, I met Mr. Gravity on the other day. So when you guys say you know what gravity is, I met the guy himself. He's the guy who drops things. He's the guy who does this force that he claims he is the force. Yeah, he's the one dropping and doing all these things that we never observe. So I call him Mr. Gravity. He is the cause as to why things are falling.
I hear he's a real down-to-earth guy. But what Adam is saying is, where's the phenomena? Where's the? I mean, you got to experience something happening in nature before you call it something.
Yeah, there isn't one.
Right. So then, how could it be scienced?
It isn't. There's no natural
The rebuttal
phenomenon.
I just received just after that description is interesting because it does kind of highlight where they're at. So I think I heard, no, you can't say the cause of a cause or the effect of an effect. That's not me saying that statement is born out of their contradiction. So as they try to describe what gravity is, they try to describe it as an effect of the bending of space-time as opposed to it just being a thing. So it's them trying to contextualize it into science or give it some way of viewing it that way that creates this misnomer. But if we were looking at why does stuff fall, which is what they're attributing a G-force to anything that's more dense than its medium, they're trying to attribute that not as a cause but as an effect, or as an effect, not a cause.
Yeah, go back to some of the old shows where we had them over a barrel with the pink writing, or QE more accurately speaking, had them over a barrel, because you'd tie them down to what their primary claim was in the first instance. What's their cause of the effect that they're studying? So we're going to need the effect. So when they give us the effect, well, the effect is, let's say, gravity, QE would write it down. That's dependent variable, effect, gravity. Okay, fast forward 5 minutes, and they'll be asked, well, what's the cause of what you've just described? And they'll say, well, the cause of that is the gravity. And then you will go back to the pink writing and say, no, you previously said that that was the effect. The effect of what was happening would be gravity. It is the effect of this. Now you're saying it's causing it. And they'll be like, no, I didn't say that. Well, we've written it down now. It's in pink writing. You having said it.
Yeah. Gravity causes the force of gravity. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
We were told that. Fight the tight shirt told us that.
Okay. Right, call to action before we do. Almost 100 people watching already before I've even started the video. Wow, how long have we been going? 20 minutes. There's almost 100 people watching. Wow, brilliant. Please share the show. Very warm welcome to all of you who've just joined us. Presumably the people who are already in the chat and typically already share the show have shared it, and you've clicked on that link and made your way here. So brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us. But if you have just joined us, please smash the share button. It's the only way we get any algorithmic love around here, so we're not going to be shared with anybody unless you're doing it. So please do so if you've just joined us. Smash that share button, stick it on Facebook, stick it on Twitter. It's a one-click deal, really easy to do. So underneath the button, press it. Let's do the video.
Now this may sound like a complicated principle, but it can be understood through basic algebra. And to go over that algebra, I present to you the one and only Martymere81.
Okay, so a body in orbit is in...
This is where we got to yesterday. A body in orbit that is assuming in respect to Earth. So we're automatically assuming orbits here.
Centripetal motion. And it...
Pause for a minute, please.
Yeah.
This is Mortimer. He's got Mortimer. We've done like 2, maybe 3 videos on this guy and debunked them on his own channel.
It is affected by a centripetal force. The magnitude of this force is F equals mv squared over r.
I mean, this is truly fascinating mathematics, and all very interesting and true. However, you're going to ascribe this to your outrageous claims. It's a bit like Dal yesterday. Yeah, you can talk about all the clever velocities and centripetal motion and forces, and you can talk about all those things, and it may very well be true. You may be able to give examples. But when you ascribe it to the outrageous claim that there's Earth doing these things, you know, we're never going to get those things pegged down. We always get into the argy-bargy of their formula for something that may be true. Yeah? Centrifugal forces, yeah, they're real. But it's the outrageous claim bit that gripes me, right? Earth doing that? Why hasn't he explicitly stated that? Well, number one, because most of the fundamentalist religious zealots watching this are looking to affirm their biases in the first place. So they already think it. They're here to get it. But without stating it out in the open, explicitly, you don't get the taste of how outrageous it is to make this assertion and ascribe it to Earth.
M being the mass of...
Just comment on that. This again is... The maths is lovely, absolutely beautiful. But again, we get to the point, does the maths describe reality? Now, when we're doing the centripetal stuff, we have a connection between the object and the point of rotation, i.e. a bit of string, yeah? So we can calculate these things, or a fairground arm rod, yeah? And many other things in reality. But then when we go to this guy, the thing that's creating the tension, the ability to rotate at a constant velocity and change its direction and maintain its orbit, is this thing that they've not been able to define even yet, a magic string called gravity that stops this thing flying off and enables it to experience the centrifugal and pedal forces. This is the mismatch, the switcheroo. Yes, we accept the maths. Yes, we accept the centripetal forces. But you've just shown me a picture with no connecting point between the point of rotation and the thing that's supposedly rotating and experiencing these forces. Mismatched the reality.
But Adam, this guy told us years ago Math is reality.
motion. V is its tangential velocity, and R is the radius of.
So we're going to assume that Earth has a tangential velocity and a radius. In short, every bit of the thing he's trying to prove is assumed in the first instance.
The orbit, or the semi-major axis if we're talking about an elliptical orbit, but we're going to be talking about a perfectly circular orbit here in this derivation.
I got a book
Right,
on that.
so
The difference between those two things. Shout out to John for sending me that. So Dr. John D sent me a book called The Sun in the Church that talked about, specifically about, the transition to elliptical orbits via Kepler. So typically we're just talking about the interplanetary motion, the third law, to give you the scale, because we typically ask the question, any evidence the distance to the sun. But in this instance, this is where the church wanted to get a better accurate idea of when Easter would be. And in order to give them that better predictive capability, they introduced elliptical orbits into the already existing heliocentric motions that was being used to predict things like events such as Easter. Well, they were wrong. They kept on getting it wrong. So when I said this over dinner literally on Friday night with my computer guy and a guy that comes to the Flat Earth Friday curry that we've sort of become a bit of a habit. And he was telling me about this, from a normie point of view, giving me his rough idea about elliptical motion of Earth and the sun and the planets. And it's like, well, do you know who invented that? I asked him. And he's like, what do you mean invented it? That's how the world is. No, it was invented for the sole purpose of better predicting when Easter would be on behalf of the church. The Roman Catholic Church invented this notion. Now, he's just disclaimed, no, I'm not talking about elliptical motion, just straight orbits. All right. So we can choose, can we? Well, you can when you invent this crap, as the church did. They just invented arbitrarily the notion of ellipses in their orbital motion. Not that we're in an ellipse, not that we're in an orbit. All of these things are assumed about the lights when using them as predictive tools to show when Easter will be. Go ahead.
Well, in this case, we've got the paradoxical. They've created the ellipse as you've just described, but in their model now, their heliocentric model, these orbits are elliptical. Yet what we're going to have the brains of Britain here come up because it's too difficult to do with an ellipse. Yeah, we're not going to do elliptical orbits like they're claimed to be in their reality. I'm going to now use maths that doesn't describe even my claim. It's too difficult. So I'm just going to stick with circles. This is the quality that they're providing us. It's beyond pathetic.
Look, right.
But do the planets move?
Hold on, Chocolate. What Adam's doing is saying, obviously, we stand in opposition to this garbage rhetoric. We point out it's wrong. When you're on the side of the rhetoric, I mean, it don't matter if I use just straight circles for this one. The standards are just so low, is what Adam's saying. And he's right. Our standards have to be high, right? We're held to a much higher standard than these fundy zealots, right? If we so much as misspeak, it'll be held against us for years. So we have to be hyper vigilant in terms of what we disseminate here. Because we're flat earthers, we're automatically assumed to be stupid. If you say one word out of place, well, there you go, obviously you're a flat earther retard. Can't even speak properly. However, on the globe side, I'll just use this shortcut. Doesn't matter about being fastidious. Doesn't matter about being accurate. Doesn't matter about staying in line with my own bloody rhetoric in this instance, right, Adam? It's just a joke. The standards are so low.
Yeah, but don't they
I was wondering.
And they're
Adam,
being extra heretical because this particular part, like you said, comes from the church. Ooh, that's some heresy for you.
Roman
That's
Catholic
terrible.
Church.
Whoa.
I was wondering if they're going to use the periapsis in their explanation, because if they do, the Earth will need to be flat to get that angle.
Yeah,
Just
they will. You know they will. That's why you're saying it.
Wait, I'm confused.
They require a flat Earth for this garbage rhetoric. The heart, the foundation of this globe Earth garbage that we all swallowed is a flat Earth. That's where all the measurements come from. Adam.
But
you
do
have
the
something to add?
celestial bodies move?
Go on, Neil. Go on.
Do the celestial bodies move?
Yeah, obviously. And apparently you can watch them.
But they don't orbit like they're telling us they orbit. Is that what you're saying?
No, in terms of their positions, if you look them up in the almanac, they physically move over the ground. If you want to say the physical location, ground position changes with time. Well, that's movement. But in terms of what they are, to describe them as orbits, that has, in terms of the ellipse, the elliptical orbit, and the orbital assumption in the first instance from Kepler, all come from the church at the behest of the church for better predictive capabilities of things like Easter, in this example with ellipses. Roman Catholic Church.
The movement that we witness is supposedly ascribed to Earth rotation. It's only the positions that have changed daily. So the relative positions of their orbits aren't changing when we see them, Neil. The reason we see them moving is we're rotating on a spinning ball.
In Kepler's
but we're
You have to be
supposed to be.
careful where they place their bits of claims, because this is why they struggle with retrograde motion.
According to
Right.
just let me get it in. According to orbital mechanics, just Adam didn't drop it in.
But I'm saying, but we're supposed to be in that, right? We're supposed to be one of them planets in there, correct? In that system.
Yeah, in the heliocentric
hold on.
system with the stars moving, in order for the elliptical motion to make sense, we must be part of the system, but not the center. Hence the title. The clue is in the name: heliocentric, sun at center. Not us.
Well, now with orbital mechanics, you can put Earth at the center and have the sun and moon rotating it. You can do that.
Geocentric though, but that's not the system we're discussing in terms of ellipse and elliptical motion and orbital motion in this regard. That's all heliocentric.
Right, but you can do that with orbital mechanics. And the thing is, if you look at just what the maths claim, it's claiming that the axis of the plane you're standing on is changing and the stars are remaining fixed, not that you're on a ball.
Gotcha. I can see what you're saying now.
That.
So you're saying when you take it back one step, you can take it to a geocentric sphere Earth, and you don't have to have sun at center, heliocentric. But if you take that one step further back, and this is what I mean, your point, I won't take your thunder. This is what John's pointing out. When you go back another step, you're taking the angle measurements from flat Earth. You're taking concepts derived to give you systems for the stars based on a flat Earth and all of their movements over it. So move up one step, you can make that geocentric. You can extrapolate out a ball Earth from the flat Earth measurements, but it doesn't alter the fact that when you get to heliocentric from geocentric from flat Earth, the origins are still the same. Right, John?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can then go from
there in the map.
flat Earth to geocentric to heliocentric with ellipse in the orbital motion. But they're all flat Earth in origin.
There's a saying, figures don't lie, but liars sure do figure.
It's a good one.
Now, what happens if the centripetal force, the force keeping this object in circular motion, is gravity? Well,
Objection. So as I said earlier, when we describe this, we've either got an anti-gravity thing at the fairground, you know, where the floor disappears, so that the wall is stopping you flying off.
Gravitron.
Thank you, Chocolate. Or we've got a yo-yo on a piece of string and we can spin that round. But we have something that is keeping the object where it is so it can experience these forces. Now, what he's about to claim is this undefined thing is his piece of string. It's nonsensical. Because if you've not got the actual force applied, or it's not being restrained, then all that can happen is the force dissipates onto the body and it affects the body that would have been moving. The point of the rope or the string is to make sure that is then turned into an acceleration of circular motion. He's not got a rope. He's just got gravity. He's got his G.
case, that force will be equal to the force of gravity. And the force of gravity is F equals G little m big M over R squared. Little
That's a shame QE's not here.
m is the same
In that
m as...
equation,
Go ahead, John.
in that equation, there's an R. Did he measure the R value to assert?
No.
Or did he measure the mass of Earth to assert an R, a volume for his mass?
My question is, did he check his calendar? Did he say force of gravity?
Yes,
when was the last time gravity was considered a force?
Yes,
Can you check
that's
my
correct.
calendar again? Okay.
Yes, he's describing gravity as though it's a force. Quote, George Musa, Scientific American. Gravity is not a force. End quote. Professor Brian Cox. Quote, there isn't really a force of gravity at all. End quote. So I don't know what this numpty's talking about. But he's playing fast and loose. He doesn't have a standard. He's a globe believer.
in the other formula, and big M is the mass of the attracting body in the middle. What this means is that mv squared over r equals g little m big M over r squared.
Yeah, you're going to need R, you're going to need G, you're going to need M.
Yeah, but he's doing, the reason he's doing this, he sent me this puzzle last night, is so we can cancel it out. Okay, so what he's done now, look, he's managed he's rearranged the formula so that they can cancel out G's and M's. This is what he's going to try and do now. What I assume he's going to derive maybe mass a little bit with a G as well.
Oh, this is net force zero.
He's trying to get rid of M, right, or one of the G's. Just let it play. And
I notice is that little m cancels out because we find it on both sides.
Yeah,
boom.
There you go. So what he's trying to say here is reason that everything falls at the same rate. So now what he's decided, look, the only parameters that are relevant aren't the object themselves, its relationship. It's just the mass of the Earth now, which is going to invoke this force. Even though it's mass attracting mass, and the masses should be relevant to each other if they're an attractive force, we've now cancelled them out in the maths. So we don't need to know M anymore.
Wait, did you say because all things fall at the same rate?
This is part of their claim, yeah. So this is
I got my hold on, got my helium balloon.
Well, you've ruined the equation now.
Yeah,
because it does have mass. Just look how I cancelled the mass out.
A bad equation.
I just saw that on screen. Yeah, but that's the purpose of this, isn't it?
This gives us v squared over r equals g big M over r squared. One of those r's in the denominator will cancel out on either side, so we're now left with v squared equals g big M over r. Now v, the velocity, is of course distance over time.
So what velocity are we talking about in respect to Earth precisely, pray tell? Where's it getting
the speed of you falling.
Sorry?
Speed of you falling.
Oh, I see.
The helium balloon drops.
Let me get it correct. The velocity comes from the assumption of an orbital motion.
It comes. It's coming from big G now. It's been defined and cancelled out that its own mass has no bearing on the rate it's going to fall. It's just based on big G, the mass of the Earth, and the radius of Earth, and then we're going to just solve the square root of that.
Do I need to release the helium balloon again? Sorry, did you say the rate it falls?
Yeah, if you release the helium balloon, you disprove this whole thing, because as you see, look, we cancelled out the mass. Mass is irrelevant, but this description insists down, doesn't it? It has to be down, and it's ignoring now the mass of the object, which is why your helium balloon ruins things. It demonstrates it's not really describing reality, is it? Especially if you can cancel out the mass of the object and it won't affect the result you get. Helium balloon.
Theo Megawerty says, props to Nathan for having that balloon on tap. Yeah, I debunked Martimer with a helium balloon.
Has he? Go on, Shackle.
Nah, go ahead, man.
Thanks for the
What's
super
up,
chat,
Brian?
Theo.
No, I was just going to say, has he defined big G and little g? Because none of these people ever do that.
He
That would
just
be
called
important.
gravity a force. So, I don't know.
What distance and what time? Well, a very convenient choice here would be to talk about the circumference in the time it takes to complete a full revolution. The circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, and the time it takes to complete a full revolution is 1 period, big T. So v squared becomes 2 pi r over t, all of that squared. In other words, 4 pi squared r squared over t squared, which equals gm over r.
I'm lost.
That's fine. It's just substituting in the equations.
Let's multiply both sides by r. We then notice that r in the denominator and r in the numerator cancel out on the right-hand side, giving us 4 pi squared r cubed over t squared equals g big M. Dividing by 4 pi squared on both sides, we get r cubed over t squared equals g big M over 4 pi squared. Let's invert and multiply both sides by r cubed. This gives us t squared equals 4 pi squared over gm times r cubed. Now, 4 pi squared over gm is a constant, at least for all bodies orbiting the same central body with mass big M. So
that would be your begging the question fallacy inserted into this mathematics, which is perhaps true for a body attached by a piece of string. However, you're just assuming that, so you'll just drop it in the middle of the statement so that we are all under the misapprehension that this applies to us because in this equation Earth is an orbiting body. No, we're not. No, that was just invented by the church, to better predict when Easter would be. Just some dude just came up with it. Like you're coming up with maths and putting them on a screen. People can do that. But it doesn't change our world and it doesn't put me in emotion. So you're going to have to do better than that.
That's how they fool people, though, isn't it? You have people like Mortimer there who come in with all the equations, and people just go, "Wow, this guy must know so much. How could I ever question this? This genius who obviously knows what they're talking about." And all he's after doing is begging the question via equations. Every single bit of those equations, he'd have to sit here and define and prove, including M, maybe M especially, So that's how they get people.
Yeah,
that's how
baffle
they've
them
gotten
with
people
bullshit.
for years.
Correct. What Brian's saying is you baffle them with bullshit, you razzle-dazzle them, in essence. Because if people... Perfect timing. Whoever said, I'm lost, I'm glad you were. That's the point. So that you get lost.
Because he's not showing you out. He's not done anything there. He's just rearranged the equation. And it looks complicated, really. You're looking at the equation saying, what can I cancel out? It's just a way of simplifying or changing it so that, as he's done there, he's now got the parameter t to solve for with the other bits. So there's nothing clever in that. He's not done anything. That is just like A-level maths. It's just moving the form, restructuring the formula to give you the solve, to solve it how you want it.
Sure, but in the process of doing so, we get to the point that I interjected, which is, so therefore begging the question, orbital motion of Earth. No, that's the only bit I'm going to pay attention to. His rearranging of maths is irrelevant to me, like Brian says, until he starts defining the terms that he's rearranging. The terms are all that matters. We're going to define those first if he was in front of me. He's not. He's doing it on a video. But when we get to the bit where he just says, well, because we're in an orbital motion, because I beg the question of something that a man called Kepler came up with to satisfy the church's interest in when the stars would line up such that they could say it was Easter, doesn't mean that his maths is going to allow me to walk past his begging the question inserted into the middle of the complicated maths when half the audience has fallen asleep. Well, I hadn't. I followed along. No problem at all. When we get to the point that you're assuming Earth's in an orbital motion, I stop the video and say, so is it you knowing that you're inserting that at this point when you say so? I mean, let's hear it again.
Now, 4 pi squared over gm is a constant, at least for all bodies orbiting the same central body with mass big M.
So, we're going to assume that?
So, what this...
Yes, we are. No, we're not. We will point out how that is a begging the question fallacy. It doesn't matter how complicated your maths are to describe something that you've just assumed. In this instance, an orbital motion come from the Roman Catholic Church.
This means
Don't we
that
have
t squared...
Hang on. That was Neil, by the way, who said I'm lost, and I was snoozing. It got that way for me as well. But we have a saying. This whole thing only exists in the math, or maths, as you guys say there. So so this is a question, Adam, directed at you. Can you create a math for something that is not vetted or seen in reality and have all the figures right?
No problem at all. You want unicorn digestion? I can give you the maths for it.
But this is orbital mechanics. They're using the plane of reference for everything.
Just want to shout out to Retro Bill, who's made the point for me. We go back to the formula, you see where he assumes distance and denotes it in terms of pi. This is where his maths is no longer describing what he's saying. Shout out Retro Bill, but we're going around in an ellipse, yeah. But he's just described the orbit as a circle. So it's a completely wrong shape, it's wrong distance, yeah. Got varying rates of acceleration now, not a constant rate, because we're on an ellipse. So the reality we're trying to pretend and convince with the maths is not described by the maths. Put simply, you're describing a circle when you've already stated that it's an ellipse.
It's nice when you have a belief that you can just talk about and just flip around however you want. You can call gravity a force when it hasn't been a force in over 100 years. You could just say, yeah, we're going to talk about perfect circles instead of the elliptical orbits that we're supposed to be believing in. Yeah, we'll just skip that. It's hilarious when these guys just mix and match their model like a Mr. Potato Head. It's crazy.
You know, they can't mix and match everything though, because they still need a plane of reference. It's in all the maths.
Equals a
You're going to be
constant
validated, John. Don't worry, you're going to be validated.
Times r cubed. In other words, t squared is proportional to r cubed. Or to use the notations Red's used, p squared is proportional to a cubed. Thank you. We're done. Goodbye.
Nathan, one moment. I don't know if people are caught on, but he's doing the maths for a measurement that they supposedly haven't completed yet. How can he be doing the maths for something that the whole video is supposed to be about? How can you do the maths now when you're not even completing the measurement? Because that's basically what he's doing. He's already doing the maths that would be based on a measurement to the distance to a measurement of the distance to a heliocentric sun.
Weren't you paying attention to what John just said?
I was.
Do you want to repeat it, John?
I told him he'll be validated.
Yeah, but you're talking about he's doing he's mathsing something he hasn't measured yet. Well, yeah, he has. To give him a basis for his maths, he's taking flat Earth measurements. That was John's point. He's disappeared now, but whatever.
Yeah, I know that. I know what they're doing. What John is pointing out, he's after pointing out several times. He's going to be validated in a while in this video. The point I'm making is that how can Mortimer be doing these maths when there's no measurement even yet of a distance?
Right.
That's the point I'm making. How can he be doing any maths?
Doing that yet. He's trying to. At this point, he's resolved it. Look there. Therefore, p squared is proportional to a cubed. He's trying in this bit to claim that Kepler's orbital mechanics are correct. That's what he's doing here. He's
correct.
Just
we've
doing a mathematical proof.
To stop you. You're doing a great job, Adam, but we have already covered this, and I laboured the point already that it's just there to beg the question. So long as we're in an orbital motion.
No, my point I'm making is he's not demonstrated anything. The maths was already proven. He's just gone through the proof. So he's not done anything per se, other than repeat what was already there, because that's how it was worked in the first place. Yes. So he's not done anything there other than demonstrated the assumption he's already made. So he's just showing that the maths in the assumption he's already made kind of works. So the equation balances, but he's not done anything other than that. There's nothing clever there. He's just rearranged the formula based on the assumptions.
Hey, let's move on.
Yeah, hang on.
Please.
Just let me finish. All right.
We're going to repeat the same
I want to
thing.
miss a big point.
Okay, go ahead. Let's just never move on with this 45-minute video.
No, this is all right, but you're going to miss it. The point I was making.
Make it, Brian.
I'll make a point, and I've been waiting to make this point. This video is Red's rhetoric. He's got two segments. One is Mortimer, which is from a Mortimer video, which is what we just seen. And the other one is Astronomy Live, I believe. So Red's rhetoric is like a conductor using these people, and we haven't got to the finish yet.
Thank you, Marty. It's also worth noting that the entire derivation of Kepler's third law is linked down below in a Google Doc. That way,
so you can beg the question with us.
No, and that's what Marty just read out. That document, that derivation, that's what he just read out. Yeah, didn't do it. Like I said, he didn't do anything. He's just recited, just read a paragraph, but the paragraph was in maths.
way you can look it over on your own time. But with Kepler's third law defined, it's now time to test it in reality.
With Kepler's third law assumed, let's go and check if it matches. Well, he's taken the notion of flat Earth measurements of the motions of the lights, converted it into spherical motion, and then added ellipses only for Mortimer to then reject them to give him nice simplistic maths prior to ellipses being added. Okay, but at no point have we proved that we're in motion. So we're going to now test how a correlation taken from flat Earth to infer that we're in motion matches with the original inference. So essentially circular reasoning.
And thankfully we can do that.
Well, what's happening is this is the point I was trying to make a few minutes ago, is that Kepler is the one who gave them their distance to the sun. Kepler had an average distance over a 12-month period, right? But he also had an obviously changing elliptical distance. So, of course, Kepler's maths are going to match Kepler's distance. How can you do the maths for something that you haven't measured yet? They didn't measure anything. They're just using the maths that's based on the distance that Kepler gave them. And his maths are based on the distance that he came up with, based on an R value and several other assumptions. So they're already doing maths on something that nobody measured yet. That's the point.
I give them all that. They're getting ready to prove a flat Earth anyway.
But already have.
Because of two observations by Astronomy Live. On May 28, 2023, he made an observation of the Viasat-3 satellite. It's a geostationary satellite that was launched into orbit on a Falcon Heavy rocket, and in fact, Astronomy Live was able to film that rocket launch from the other side of Florida. That video is amazing, and I'll link it in the description. But in addition to Viasat...
Oh, isn't it a pretty firework? Oh.
Viasat-3, he also observed the GPS satellite Navstar...
GPS? Brian, how does GPS work?
On a horizontal plane, Nathan. There's going to be a whole presentation about that this Saturday.
Tell me all about it.
Well, GPS uses the Cartesian coordinate system, dimensional first and followed by three-dimensional, which is a grid system of squares and or rectangles that can't work on a spherical surface. So there's no way around it.
You had me at horizontal plane. Where would you get one of those on a sphere?
Yeah, all the zeniths for each system must be parallel with the zenith for every other system. So no zenith can be divergent with GPS.
Oh dear.
They also then convert to latitude and longitude which is the original flat Earth coordinate system. That's what you see on your Google when you go to Google Earth. You see your latitude and longitude, and they give you a height above what they call an ellipsoid, which is just mean sea level, which is all based on X, Y, Z to begin with, all of it.
XYZ being straight line coordinates.
Yes, flat
Yeah,
Earth required.
78 on May 29th, 2023. Because of these two observations, he was able to test Kepler's third law. So to go over those details, I present to you Astronomy Live.
On May 28th, 2023, around midnight, I recorded this time-lapse of a geostationary satellite, Viasat-3. It's the bright dot in the middle, and you can see stars streaking by in the background. The telescope's drives were off during this 45-minute time-lapse, but you can see the fact that Viasat-3 is not moving. It is truly geostationary. In order to measure the distance and velocity of the satellite with parallax, I used a telescope over the internet on the iTelescope network at an observatory located in Chile. In these images, the telescope is tracking the stars, and Viasat-3 is a bright streak moving from the lower left to the upper right, along with other geostationary satellites in the area.
Geo what now? Geostationary?
Bro, use the telescope on the internet.
Yeah, a geostationary satellite stays at the same point over the globe Earth. That's what they would say. So it would go, if I remember correctly, it would go with the rotation of the globe. So basically, it moves along with the stars.
Allowing the satellite to streak through the view while tracking the stars allows us to more easily measure its position with astrometry, measuring the coordinates of each pixel in the image using the location of the stars. For this reason, I also recorded more images from my location in Florida by actually tracking on the stars and allowing Viasat-3 to streak through the view repeatedly. Here you can see the results of my astrometric measurements of these images and the coordinates of Viasat at a simultaneous point in time as seen from Chile and as seen from Florida. This simultaneous observation...
Pause. I'm confused. This claim that we've been hearing for years that Earth atmosphere move as one. Now, Brian just said something. If the stars are moving from a drone footage hovering above the Earth, not on the Earth, with the Earth moving, the stars are moving. What is this geostationary satellite actually? What is the claim? If the stars are moving when a drone lifts off the Earth, so meaning Earth's rotation isn't affecting it, it's moving with the stars then, not the Earth.
We haven't actually got his full claim yet.
From two different points on the Earth will allow us to measure its distance and altitude over the Earth, and because...
There it is. So, from the two positions, he's measuring the distance and altitude above the Earth. That's going to require a flat Earth elevation angle measurement, though, isn't it?
It's in a circular orbit, that altitude remains consistent throughout the course of the orbit. We will also use this image I captured about 21 minutes later in order to measure its velocity relative to the Earth. On the evening of May 29th, I captured these images of Navstar 78, a GPS satellite expected to be in a slightly lower circular orbit than a geostationary satellite. Once again, I captured simultaneous images of the same GPS satellite as seen from another telescope at the same observatory in Chile. Once again, I used astrometry to find the coordinates of the satellite, both from the observatory in Chile and in a simultaneous observation in an image taken from my telescope.
So, coordinates in a system derived from a flat Earth. Fascinating. So he found out where it is with relation to a flat Earth grid system. Okay. What's he trying to prove again?
Florida. I also captured this image a little...
Well, so far he's using systems that are derived from flat Earth grids. So, I mean, so far, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, he's affirmed lots of flat Earth proofs, has he not?
Absolutely, and the information you would have got from astronomy would have been right ascension and declination, which I'm not going to say too much because it's coming up in a minute. I don't want to ruin it. Coming up in a small way. Okay.
A little over 6 minutes later, from my position in Florida, in order to measure the velocity.
I just want to check this setup understanding. So in where he is, he's got his telescope fixed, looking at what he claims is a geostationary satellite, and the movement that he's witnessing is The Earth rotating and the stars appear to be moving. His geostationary thing stays fixed. And in Chile, he's got what must be an equatorial mount set up so that is constantly moving. And that's why it appears that the geostationary satellite is moving.
Velocity of the GPS satellite. Let's now discuss how we can use these observations to actually measure the distance, altitude, and velocity of these satellites. Here's a diagram to picture the view from two different observers on the Earth. The red laser represents my line of sight to a satellite from Florida. The blue laser represents a line of sight from the observatory in Chile. This is not to scale for either of these observations, but it's just to give you an understanding of how we're going to measure the distance and altitude of these satellites.
Okay, so you're going to measure an angle. Well, that would require that this bent line here is the baseline. That won't give you an angle. What you've drawn, Astronomy Live, the vertex point is not an angle. Perhaps Astronomy Live is stupid and he doesn't understand what an angle is. If this is your position standing on the Earth and you are measuring to a point in the sky, be it a star or in this case your claim of a satellite, then the angle would be formed between the base, that's a straight line, and another straight line, two straight lines. That's what gives you an angle. This isn't an angle, Astronomy Live. Are you stupid? I'm going to go with yes, because you think that this curved line meeting this straight line will achieve an angle. At a fundamental level, you don't understand what an angle is. Curved lines meeting straight lines don't form angles.
What was the name of that program that the other guy, I forget who was using it, that he was using that said, this object is not a line. Access denied. Well,
Yeah.
what was the name of that?
You're talking about Rob Durham's example in CAD, where he shows
Yes.
that you can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. And in this instance, he said, this is what we're doing to scale. No, it is not. You're measuring angles. You've already detailed what you're doing, measuring angles. That's not an angle, bonehead. Part of this don't you get? Don't you understand what a bloody angle is? Clearly not.
Each observer will see a different set of background stars behind the satellite, and so we can use the astrometry measuring the position of the satellite relative to the background stars to measure the parallax, the angle at the tip of the triangle. Now, in order to solve for the distance to either observer or the altitude of the satellite over the surface of the Earth, we need to know the baseline of the observations.
Oh, really? How interesting. It's funny that I should have mentioned how this doesn't have one. A baseline would be straight. This baseline is not straight. If this isn't a baseline, you've got this on screen while you're describing things that must be straight and you've got them depicted as curved, not achieving an angle.
Also, if looking at the picture you have up, you see the stars outside of that longitude, latitude globe that he's describing? That's not the globe. That's the celestial sphere, and the stars are inside of that. This is reversed.
And the baseline is actually a line that runs through the surface of the Earth directly between the two observers, like this.
Oh, sorry. The baseline that we measure along the surface when we use a horizon to establish a flat horizontal baseline to GPS. For example, on screen now. This
no,
would
he's
be
tunneling, Nathan. He's tunneling through the Earth to make his baseline. His baseline is not the surface.
No.
I was just gonna say that, Adam. I was just gonna say, is that a new occupation, tunneling through the Earth? Because that's what he said.
Baseline tunnelers, yeah. Professional job. When you're building triangles on balls, you see, you need somebody that can dig a tunnel.
Right, at
Well,
a fundamental
he's
level,
contradicting
no.
the
Sorry,
mathematics.
gentlemen. While you may mock, no. That is not a baseline. Astronomy Live. Yeah, what you have drawn out is the equatorial plane, and as 10th Man called before you got there, it would have the stars inside the celestial sphere if the equatorial plane is what you're describing as a baseline. But that would put the ground on that flat plane and the stars inside the sphere. Furthermore, if you're to assert that this sphere is the surface of a ground you think you're standing on because you're a fundamentalist religion who believes the nonsense that's come from Kepler at the behest of the Roman Catholic Church, This is not a baseline in that regard because you'd have to tunnel through Earth, as the rest of the panel's getting very narky about, and I don't blame them. No, we're not tunneling through Earth for baselines.
Sorry.
Baselines run along the ground. They run along the base. This is a baseline. Now, even your own fundies have decided to turn this version of it into a disco ball Earth, but they're certainly not tunneling through it to get a baseline. Nobody is. You are an idiot. This is not a baseline.
Yeah, right. I don't even. I think he's. I can't see the video, but I thought it's just a chord he has going on between two observers.
No. What he's drawn is the equatorial. He's drawn a line that would represent the equatorial plane. 10th called it. 10th was right. 10th got there first before he did.
Well, no, I know what's going to happen here. I just wasn't sure if he'd done a chord, because I saw another video where there was a chord. No, it's okay. Don't worry. The best is yet to come.
That yellow line, he will try and equate to the equatorial plane.
Yes, he has. Sorry, Brian. Yeah. Adam caught it and I didn't. Yes, he has drawn a chord line through it, Brian. I just didn't spot it.
But it's not the equatorial plane then. It's just a chord.
It is. He's drawn a blue line and said it's the base. He's just described that. But he has, in the diagram, for some reason, now got a chord line as well. Adam caught it. I don't remember him saying it. I'm going to rewind 10 seconds. Yeah, because there's where it appears.
Chord is the Great Trans-American Tunnel that he's just made.
Hold on.
Or the altitude of the satellite over the surface of the Earth, we need to know the baseline of the observations. And the baseline is actually a line that runs through the surface of the Earth directly between the two observers, like this.
I was wrong. You were right. Sorry, 10th. You were wrong also.
Brian contradicts.
Yeah, that's why me and Adam were making fun of it.
Say that again. Say that again, Nathan. I missed it.
We were wrong collectively. You're saying he's drawing an equatorial plane. The star should be inside the ball. No, he's not. He is declaring this is the surface of a sphere Earth, and even explicitly stating that he'd have to tunnel through Earth. That's how he phrased it. He didn't say tunnel, but through the surface. Again, nobody's.
No. No, he's the blue line he's got there is the equator, right?
I get that. Okay. Let's just move on, please.
Well, the yellow laser is a chord that runs directly between the two observers' locations. This is our baseline, and if we calculate this distance, we can...
There it is. This is our baseline. The chord is what he's referring to, as Brian and Chocolate and Adam alluded to.
Yeah, but, and this is the point that Ten's making. Now, all of these angles that he's going to take from this imaginary chord off the surface that he's got, they actually, because he's using the star field, they are on the equatorial plane. Now, he's now got the yellow line crossing his equatorial plane. When he takes that, he's got to take that to the center of the Earth to apply it, but he's not going to. He's going to use his tunnel distance to derive things here. So he's now got a mismatch with the star field and the trigonometry he's going to do on his object. So that's what I think Tent is describing the mismatch here, because that yellow line that he's taking his angles off is the equatorial plane, but you can see it can't be now because of the way he's defined it. It's a tunnel, not the equatorial plane.
Use it to solve the triangle and determine the distance of the satellite from either observer. More importantly, we can also calculate the altitude of the satellite over the Earth. Here's the spreadsheet. First, highlighted in the top left, you enter the time and date in universal time, as well as the two observer locations. In my case, my observer location in Florida, as well as the location of the observatory in Chile. For the sake of my personal safety and anonymity, I'm not giving away my exact location, but it's a location close enough for our purposes. To the right of the input box for date, time, and location.
Nathan, right, please leave me a chance to say this. This is important. This is what I was trying to say after Adam. You know, in celestial navigation, where they just start with an angle and then suddenly it's at the center of their globe. Now, what Tent was saying was correct. All his angles should be coming from an equatorial plane, but he's not going to the equatorial plane because to take his angle, because he can't. So he has to make up a baseline before he can go to his equatorial plane, which he is going to do. Just like in celestial navigation, where they don't have any measurements from their surface, they always start at the equatorial plane and start measuring arc lengths. Same thing here. Tenth is correct in what he's saying. What this guy is doing is trying to fool people. That's what's going on with his chord length.
Are
The
input
chord
boxes
length
for
is
the astrometry.
contradicting orbital mechanics, which is the thing he's claiming to use. You don't use chord lengths in orbital mechanics. You use the plane of reference. So this is garbage. Absolute garbage.
It is, but he corrects himself in a way. But this is all begging the question. This is all sleight of hand. Watch it.
Observer location during the simultaneous observation, which we'll use to actually measure the distance of the target. You can find that in the highlighted boxes here. Below that, we have another date and time entry box for the second observation that I made from Florida, and below that, we have the input boxes for the astrometry of that second observation. We'll use this data to measure the velocity of the satellite, but more on that later. Once you've put in the data, the spreadsheet goes to work. First, calculating the chord length distance between the two observer locations in this cell you see highlighted on the left. Below that, the spreadsheet calculates what will later be known as angle A in our diagrams. This is the angular separation.
So the angle between the ground that's straight through the Earth and the star. When are you getting that? How is he getting a chord length angle through Earth? He isn't. Simple as that.
Between the second observer
when he digs through the Earth.
Yeah, he's not tunneling through Earth for this angle. It's just nonsense.
Location and the satellite in the sky. We'll discuss in greater detail later how we go about calculating this angle.
Off a flat Earth, you'll measure it off a flat Earth. Calculations for the angle that you measured off a flat Earth are irrelevant.
Or is it? I think he did that purposely.
What I was trying to say is that when they do that chord length, when they go subterranean, okay, like rodents, they're actually getting that from the equatorial plane to the celestial sphere model, the imaginary sphere. So then they project that sphere back and make it the outside of a globe. So that chord length, in other words, if you take that and say that's really the angle from the center, the equatorial plane, and then project it back from the celestial sphere, you've got a globe all of a sudden, which is the celestial sphere projecting the arc of the measurement, and that becomes their surface. So the whole point is the celestial sphere is being projected to give them their globe Earth, but the angle measurement has to come from a flat baseline all along. It's a flat Earth. It's the projection of the concave nature of the celestial sphere due to perspective that they make the surface.
Lastly, we take a quick look here at some of the output of the spreadsheet. It shows the distance of the target from Florida at time point 1, as well as the altitude over the Earth. Again, this is a circular orbit, so that altitude will remain fixed throughout the orbit. In this case, the spreadsheet is actually calculating the parallax angle directly from the astrometry that we put in as input. Normally, I would use SAO image DS9 to measure this angle. That's the program you saw me using earlier to make each of the individual measurements. You can also measure the length of a line in that program in order to measure the parallax. But for parallax this large, 16 degrees, it actually becomes unstable.
You'll need a flat Earth for your equatorial mount and your angle measurements. I mean, we keep pointing it out, but you're just using flat Earth concepts. You know, while you've stated that you've put it into a system that digs through Earth to make the angle a chord, we know how that's actually represented off the equatorial plane with the projection of the angle measurement through a sphere Earth that you thought you were standing on out towards the celestial sphere. But that doesn't mean that the angle projection can then have a chord line drawn through the Earth that you thought you were standing on when the angle itself has come from a plane, as just detailed by John and Tenth.
And runs into floating point errors, which results in inaccuracy in the measurement. So, to do this better, we're actually calculating it directly.
Sorry, calculating it directly to give you a better measurement. You don't calculate directly, right? If you've got an inaccuracy in your measurement, you measure it better. You don't calculate it better, yeah? And your measurement came from a flat Earth. It's an angle measurement.
Using spherical trigonometry based on the astrometry.
Spherical trig? Sounds like an oxymoron to me.
We'll get into that a little bit later.
Come on, Neil.
Are they talking about angles through hell now instead of from hell?
No, this guy's convoluting the two. So he's saying that his program takes the measurement of the chord, whereas in reality, it's an extrapolation thereafter that Tenth just detailed the measurement would actually come from the equatorial plane, his blue line in his diagram. Then that measurement comes along, let's say the base of the star is way, way out beyond where a sphere Earth could accommodate. Well, then you have a flat baseline along the equatorial plane, going out through a globe Earth that's completely surplus to requirements to the GP of the star, with the star being on the celestial dome, out measured to infinity on their model, but just in reality a perspective representation of you measuring a star. Well, its GP, like we discussed earlier, could be thousands of miles away from you, beyond, like I say, where a globe Earth could accommodate. But when you then map out that arc that you measured along a flat baseline to the star, you can project out at 3959 radius a globe Earth. Now that globe Earth would have the arc of the tool represented as the Earth you're standing on, meaning you're in hell when doing this at a true originistic stand from a point of view that you're starting with how it's actually done as 10th detailed, Neil. However, that's not what he is actually doing, which is why it's discussed so at nausea in the last 10 minutes. Because, or why the confusion came from me originally, it's not what he's actually doing. He's describing it as though the measurement is of the chord line. Well, it isn't. We're not tunneling through Earth. And it's not how it's done in reality if you're going to even infer from page 87 of the books on navigation, for instance, that this could be done in a spherical manner. In which case, yes, Neil, that's where you're right. It would be, but for the fact he's convoluting it, angles from hell. I hope that answers your question.
He can't, Nathan. He can't. You see, he has to start with the chord line that he knows is wrong, because he can't go straight to the center, because then it's obvious he's just using a flat plane. Whereas he has to be able to come up with some kind of an ad hoc angle measurement using the surface of the globe, but via a chord line. He has no choice. That's like just like in celestial navigation, where all the ballers, they all deny the measurements that happen on the surface of Earth. They all just want to go straight to the center of their globe after the measurements have happened. That's what he's. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, Brian. The purpose of the tangent plane always being drawn on the surface of a circle that's supposedly the globe Earth. What's the purpose of that tangent plane? Is to mirror the equatorial plane. Okay, so this guy is not doing that in this image. He's going through a chord line. So he's actually using a circle and saying, I'm going to go right through it. Well, that's not the way navigation is done. And so the whole purpose of that tangent plane, and it's 3959 distance from the equatorial plane, is that because of the vastness of space and the distance of the stars are so far, it's negligible. That's what it's nonsense.
Right, he's talking about circular orbits.
Yeah, but that's
he's referencing a
it's all theoretical. It's like just like how what was it again a whole long time ago about how the shape of the Earth wasn't actually spherical mathematically in certain ways, but then when you push to it, no, it is spherical or sort of spherical, right? Because the math warps things everywhere in their model. So it isn't actually as cohesive together as they think it really is. And
No,
that's
kind of the same thing as having to believe in an oblate spheroid when we're actually showing pictures of a perfect sphere. Is that what you mean?
No, what
remember that side-on diagram where it's like really not spherical? That's where that's that sort of thing I'm talking about. It's not unified. The information they use is not unified.
If you leave me explain it to Chocolate, then he'll know. Chocolate, their geometry has to be a perfect sphere because their geometry is based on the latitude and longitude grid. So you can't use that with an ellipsoid. The ellipsoid that they're coming up with is based on the pre-assumption that they're rotating. So centrifugal force, or is a centrifugal force will cause it to widen out at the equator. It's basically. Well, is it centrifugal or centripetal? Will cause it to widen out at the equator as it rotates, like a pancake, like a ball turning into a pancake. So there are two separate claims. The geometry is spherical, but they have to also claim it's rotating, which means that they have to claim that at the equator it's getting wider.
Right.
That's,
So, like
so,
the
but
whole
that doesn't
orbital
work with their
mechanical,
geometry.
sorry, the whole orbital mechanic system basically requires the Earth to not really be a sphere and all the other objects not really be a sphere mathematically, but they still think it is a sphere. And that's typically what they do, right? They get them caught up in a model with math that warps everything slightly so it can't really be the sphere and all that, but they still think of it as a sphere. And this happens everywhere with the ball, everywhere.
Well, that's why they use the equatorial plane. Like what John is talking about there, what Refracted is talking about there, that is going, Refracted is 100% correct. And this guy is going to correct himself. This individual, that's what's coming up in a while. He's going to correct himself. This is all, like, it's all leading you into, oh yeah, you can do all these things on the globe. And then he's going to give away the big finale where it's totally can't be done. What he's claiming totally can't be done in reality. But he has to hide that with all this other rubbish beforehand. That's what I'm waiting for Nathan to get there.
He's got to give you a lot of virtual hope to latch onto before he basically pulls the rug from underneath you.
Exactly.
So that you hold on to the dream and disregard that that none of it works. That's part of the trick.
Looks like we're going to have a part 3.
Like I said, it's like Mr. Potato Head, man. You could have elliptical orbits here, perfect circular orbits there, gravity of force here, gravity is bending of space-time over there, right? Sometimes the air is rotating with the Earth, sometimes it's not.
Right. Once you start calculating it as a whole, suddenly nothing works anymore.
Yep.
I think you post the 5 pictures for everyone to view in Master D.
I don't think my Skype's working. I still haven't got around to it. Let me just try. No, it's not. It's something I'll have to get around to.
All right, we'll save it for tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, it's irritating to see someone claim orbital mechanics as a proof of, that we live on a sphere, and then throw orbital mechanics out the window to say they're tunneling through Earth. What the hell are you? No, just use the plane of reference like it says you have to in the math. Like, why are you just throwing it all out, saying, you know what, we're not going to use the plane of reference like the mathematics require. Just on that, we're gonna make a chord line that doesn't exist.
That's an admission, John. That's an admission. Exactly. That's an admission that a right angle is necessary and 90 degrees is necessary, and you need a baseline. And since they can't get it on the surface, they have to become a rat and burrow through the earth.
Bugs Bunny, bro. Bugs Bunny.
Who
made should have made the left at Albuquerque.
Shouldn't have stepped on in Albuquerque.
But they don't do that in orbital mechanics. So, like, you know what I'm.
So are you saying you're spotting? So are you saying you're spotting contradictions left and right?
Well, yeah, but he's not doing orbital mechanics. To claim orbital mechanics proves parallax on a sphere. He's an idiot.
This is
just an idiot.
Just trigonometry and geometry is all they're doing. Everything else is just pre-assumed because they're just sticking it on a ball. They've got to assume R to work out the calculations. And I'm just looking at it, right? I've just zoomed ahead and they've got an angle A, which is that red line and the yellow baseline, right? But that's not going to be commensurate with the tangent they create on the surface to measure the first angle. So they've whether they do it or not, they've still got to then adjust based on R and the distance between the two places based on R and the angular change that would do and the difference in the two tangent planes they create just to be able to use that tunnel. But fundamentally, there's no astronomy being done here. All their stuff are flat Earth angles to do trigonometry on the ball to an object. Like I said, they're not doing any orbital mechanics. It's just trig they're doing. They're not doing any celestial navigation. They're just looking at things in the sky and plotting it based on the assumption of a ball.
So what you're saying is you're finding contradictions 10 steps down the rabbit hole after they divided by 0. Are you shocked? You know what the division by 0 was? The moment he pulled out and got that elevation angle at the beginning.
Right. And while we're all figuring out the refined details of how they are utterly incorrect, the ballers in the meantime are still thinking that they have an offense when they ask us, why are stars rotating on the southern hemisphere in a different direction? Right? So they'll not even catch on. They'll not even understand what we're discussing.
Different direction.
Well, that's because down there they don't listen to the country music. It's turn around.
But this is all fluff. This is what I'm saying. When Nathan plays on video, this is all fluff the guy is putting out. He's trying to fluff up the situation to hide the concession he has to give. There's a massive concession coming up. Anyone who's watched this video knows it from this Astronomy Live. Massive concession.
Hold on.
Kent will, yeah.
You see, I'm just looking. So, having done all this with a geostationary satellite, done all this trigonometry, this is the dirty bastard. This is the switcheroo. Right. So then we go on to look at celestial objects, Mars and the Sun, and apply the same trigonometry, not celestial navigation, which is... So he's going to do trig on celestial objects. Well, that won't work.
Yeah, but he's going to... The way he goes about it, he has to make a big disclaimer.
He's going to get the distance to Mars so he can carry on doing trig.
Yeah, he's going to use the size of Mars and stuff. But I know. But before any of that even happens, he is going to give away he's going to do a big disclaimer. It's just coming up. A massive disclaimer.
Well, come on, Nathan.
What he's been trying to hide.
No, we'll save it for tomorrow.
No, never mind tomorrow. We're all here now. Now is the time. Tomorrow might never come.
Get your ass to Mars. Get your ass to Mars.
Go, Brian, go.
Mars.
Well, I can't do it. Not my show. Sorry.
He's going to get to the concession after he divided by 0.
Yes, but what's great about the concession... Sorry, Arvin, go on.
Just asking, nobody got that Total Recall reference?
Oh, I did. What my point being is, what's great about the concession is it completely nullifies their dividing by 0. His concession nullifies it. If you understand his concession, completely nullifies his dividing by 0 because it means absolutely nothing then. All their nonsense.
How can you nullify dividing by 0 that's already nullified by dividing by 0?
Yeah, I know.
Nullify it again.
Yeah, he double nullifies it.
He double nullifies.
It's a double O.
Can Nathan zero in on this next part, please?
Come on, Nathan. We're all going to be silent if you don't freaking do it.
Do what?
Well,
We're going to do it. I thought we were going to have a part 3.
Tomorrow might never come.
Do it now.
Yeah, we don't know what happens tomorrow.
Do it, chocolate.
You've been overruled. I thought it was going to be a part 3.
It might be best to save it for tomorrow because the conclusion's got to be that, he's taking it from the plane of reference so he can get it back in line with orbital mechanics. So
that's a lot of presumptions. Because your next breath, do it tomorrow because your next breath is not guaranteed.
That's our point.
Exactly. Nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah, but it sounds like a conclusion point that he's getting ready to make. Like put a period at the end of the sentence.
Okay, let me put you guys to the test.
Is that what you're saying?
Pay your mortgage 2 months in advance because tomorrow's not guaranteed.
No.
Who's gonna do that?
That don't count.
He's going to put a period at the end of dividing by 0. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm going to say that he's going to go back to the flat plane that they referenced to begin with.
But John, you got everybody on that one, John, because they always have to go to that.
All this hemming and hawing, we could have already heard it by now.
Exactly.
I think they want to save it for the live show.
Do it, Nathan.
Never mind that.
Yeah, it all depends how we can swing Nathan's mood.
There is a time we're all here. Tomorrow we may not all be here. It may not happen.
I got you. I got you. Nathan, this will be the perfect test for the computer. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important to really test the computer, isn't it? Especially with all us in here.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't think I need to. I spent a significant period of time over the weekend looking at dials. I didn't even look at any of them during this show. I didn't need to.
So should we start talking about European football? Will that get you going?
No.
Yeah.
Ice walls.
Food, something to get back onto the video.
Hit him with the ice wall.
That's cold, Neil.
Yeah, Nathan, I know what you're up to. What Nathan is doing here is he's pulling a no talk from him. That's what he's saying. Yeah. What he's trying to do is try and get the conversation to start shutting down, giving us no topics, trying to keep the topics out of it. So eventually you can go, anyway, with that, see you later.
With that, exactly.
Yeah, I know what you're at, Nathan.
know
Now
your
you're doing some messing around. Just get playing on that video.
So
Yeah, I
to
did a
that
You have no
scientific-
excuses now.
We could always talk about my scientific experiment I did last night on a McDonald's hamburger.
Brother. Oh my God.
So refracted, when you were
Why
bringing
not?
up orbital
what's wrong with
mechanics,
AI is a scientific experiment.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
refracted, you there?
So what we
Hey,
did,
he's laughing at you now. Go on.
purchased one McDonald's triple cheeseburger and we measured the thickness of the patty. We took a photograph, right? And the IV DV relationship was time, because time causes all things. I rest my case.
Science is back, baby.
Slow down, Lightfoot.
Round.
Refracted, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Loosen your belt, please, because you sound really high.
Maybe Bell will come back.
Why don't you walk me through that?
That's a classic. Where has he been anyway, Kumo virus?
He's speaking. Is Eli in? He requested to be let in.
Nobody let Eli in?
I saw a request. All
Well,
right.
see them.
Let me ask
It'll
the
look up to
question.
Nathan if Nathan is there. He may not be at the
No,
computer.
we got to fill the void here. So, Refracted brought up orbital mechanics, and he was saying something that it needs a perfect sphere to work, but they've got an ellipse. It's not a perfect sphere, so it can't work. Something to that effect.
No, well, the only way you can make it work is on a stationary horizontal plane. That's what he's trying. That's what Refracted is trying to say. It can't work. What they're trying to do when they need to calculate, they must use, right? You know what they must use, Kent. They're
No, no, I
going
know.
plane at what time of year?
Yeah, the vernal equinox, the date of reference. No tilt to the tilting Earth.
No Tilt Tuesday.
Yeah, so that I just wanted more clarity on that because I was taking notes. So it can't work on the sphere because they actually use the plane of reference. We know that.
Well, you know all about it if Nathan had played the bloody video.
He ain't gonna do it. He better do it early tomorrow because I got a short day tomorrow.
See, you're not going to
What?
be here tomorrow. See?
Yeah, and I may not make it tomorrow. There's two people that won't be here.
See, tomorrow's not
I mean,
guaranteed.
Yeah, QE may not be here. Neil may not be able to make it. I mean, come on, like now is the time.
Sidestep it? Holy fucking shit! What if we sidestep it and just put the conclusion on QE Live?
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that'll work.
That would be underhanded, man.
Yeah, well,
That's
at
mutiny.
least you're a man who's willing to do it.
Oh, good one, Brian. We're being ignored anyway.
He probably went to go get a coffee.
Where the hell is Adam when I need him?
I'm here. I thought that was your plan. I thought, yeah. Say again. You're shouting too much. You're breaking up. Shout louder.
Adam! What are we gonna do, man? We're lost.
What was it? Shit. We need a photograph.
The height of the photograph.
The height of the photograph.
Height of
Ah.
photograph.
The height of the photograph?
Yeah.
What?
You need to watch QE Live last week, Chocolate.
Yeah, you got to be on QE
Okay.
Live, Chocolate.
Well,
All right. Thanks, Neil.
That's a very poor trait you're showing right now.
The new one is, hey, we don't know when Easter is.
I like it. Sorry, John.
I was just going to say the new one is, we don't know when Easter is. Quick, somebody dig a hole through Earth.
You know when Easter is by tunneling through the earth.
Well, if we all do it at the same time, we'll be at one accord.
But I say that, Chocolate, because when the show starts, I see your icon and it says Chocolate Scene, but you're never there.
You see my what?
Your icon on ball buses.
Oh man, I interrupt this to tell Tense Man. I strung together that reference.
Say that again.
I said I strung together your reference.
You strung together my reference. All right. You're spinning quite a yarn there
Good one.
with that McDonald's measurement.
I just want you to know we're all playing into Nathan's hand. He's going to go any minute now. Anyway, with that, that's what he's going to do.
That's right. We all know it, but it's kind of fun.
I'm getting coffee. I'm doing all the things you say. I can hear you from the kitchen, and yes, I am. But, you know, ideally, wouldn't you subtly pick up on the fact that I'm not sat at the mic at that particular moment? The ideal circumstance is that you don't labour it for the next 10 straight minutes while I'm in the kitchen listening to you. But there we go. I mean, you know, it ruins the magic. The magic is the suspension of disbelief that I am permanently... I don't have a bladder. I don't require cooling or heating or liquid.
Oh, pretend you're AI now. That's
See
cool.
the way he sidestepped playing the video.
Get a catheter and charge on.
Exactly. That will be the next GoFundMe.
I can't believe I just heard. I can't believe I just heard Nathan requesting to be pampered.
No, I want this seat to be a fully plumbed lavatory.
Well, it depends.
Listen, you have 20 more hours to use the bathroom, drink coffee, and do other things.
Wait a second. Do you actually say laboratory when you're over there? I have to go to the laboratory?
Laboratory.
He said that. He said that in school.
Laboratory.
Laboratory. Okay. Do you actually say
not
that?
laboratory. Laboratory.
Not with a B, with a V. V is in Victor, not with a B is in Bravo.
Not with an Ori at the end.
Wow, this is
like it's like how they say schedule and not schedule.
Most people come to the show to get an understanding of physics. Now we're in the laboratory.
So speaking of that, the control variable in my experiment was resisting the urge to eat the burger. before it was complete.
What was it? What was it?
Resisting to eat the burger.
That was a control variable.
Hit him with the wall chocolate.
Wall him.
Hit him with the composition fallacy chocolate.
Nah, I don't got no more of those.
Now, is it actually physical structure?
I was thrown in there yesterday.
Damn you.
If you listen
Damn
carefully, Brian brought it in yesterday.
What do we all make of Dell's appearance? Because that hasn't really been discussed much. I can just hear chocolates clicking mic, I think. No, JC23. Can you pop yourself on mute, please?
Hey, Kiwi.
JC23, when you're not talking, can you be on mute? Because we can just hear clicking and popping from you.
I am talking. Kiwi.
What do you want, sir?
Rocks falling from cliffs and mountains in the springtime happens a lot up here in the mountains. Like on a daily basis, we have to go and plow them off the road. Would you call that a natural phenomena? The rocks falling from cliffs?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Well, you guys got a couple followers who think they're smart and have been making sarcastic comments, and they don't even know what a natural phenomena is. One of them's on your panel, so just food for thought. Thank you.
Who is it? Name and shame. Go ahead. Naming them and shaming them.
Figure it out.
We need our own anyway, man.
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Don't leave me hanging. Don't tell me to figure it out because I'm not going to be able to. I've got my kids screaming for a start. Go on. Who is it?
I just did. Figure it out.
Oh, damn. He's got an attitude.
Was it me?
He has secret knowledge that we don't have.
Well, ever since
My wife's just coming in and gone, is this guy coming in and giving you a puzzle? That was my wife's attitude.
He's always got an attitude. He thinks Nathan's somebody's daddy, but I told him his mom advised me to make the comment in response to his response.
Can you give us a clue, a hint?
Well, who's he talking about?
I left it in Master B. I left the message in Master B. He rides the jock of Dell, so he's the backup Gel. He's backing up
So you're
Dell.
a Della. What do you got to say for yourself?
He's a deli jelly belly.
This isn't the Mandela effect.
Easy. Ain't no need for that.
Yeah, there's no
Easy
need
what?
for that. He's not
Yeah,
somehow
we're all
guilty.
very delighted.
He is
So
not-
can we?
Very nice, Armin. I like that one.
Okay, right.
Well, if he's talking
stop,
about
stop, stop.
rocks, he should
All
be
right.
bolder and just
Hold
say
on a
it.
second. Do you guys
Comes,
know,
what's the D stand for? Dunning-Kruger?
before we get into the string of ad homs, JC, right, I was about to defend you by saying you're not Dell, right? So, there's no guilt by association. And I was going to give an example that wasn't you to try and justify your position in this regard before you start. So you're going to be put at ease. So there's a guy you might be familiar with, Brian Leaker, or Leaky. I don't know how you say his name. Is it Leak?
Oh,
He had his comment
Is it
yesterday.
leaky or leaky?
Yeah, the D stands for Dell Dick Jocker. You, JC.
Thank you. Okay, well,
Hey, so D Rose, do you stand corrected now?
Nope, don't stand corrected.
Can nobody hear Nathan talking?
it's D Rose.
Nathan talking.
No. We've got to the crux of it, Brian. I wouldn't have minded,
Let
but
JC speak to Upward Earth Monkey. Come on, go ahead.
no, he's talking about
Now,
you,
this
D Rose.
isn't about.
He's talking about
All
you,
right, go
right?
ahead, Nathan.
Well, no, I'm on your side, right? If you've got something to challenge one of the panel members, this is D Rose's baptism of fire, unfortunately for him. He's on the panel now, so he's...
Nathan, the
D
reason
Rose, please don't
the reason why
interrupt
you
me.
haven't heard me is because I've been at work. I'm with patients.
I know you've just heard your name. That doesn't mean just immediately start incessantly talking through me. You got to get yourself some discipline while you're in the panel. Literally, you're just blarting straight through the middle of me. Very irritating. Right, I'm trying to explain that, yes, you have heard your name mentioned. That is to say that somebody from the Discord server is saying they've taken umbrage with something you've said. Well, unfortunately for you, now, as a panel member, it works both ways. This could be your glorious moment, for all we know. It won't be if you're interrupting me, though. But the guy saying, you don't think natural phenomena, rocks falling. That's what I've got so far, although he's pretty cryptic about it. But now we've got there in the end. That was the bit I was focused on, although I was going to give an example with Brian, and it was complimentary to Brian and all the rest of it, but everyone else groaned, and that's all we've got on the recording. But that doesn't matter. You go ahead, JC.
No, it's not in regards to upward rising Earth. It was just an open and closed question. It's clearly something happening and something is causing it. So, seems pretty simple to me. But obviously, for some members of your panel, it's not so simple. So,
hold on.
Just
making that point entirely. Hold on, stop. It's not in regards to upward rising Earth. So is it just a D-Rose personal attack then? Because what the hell is it in regard to then if it's not in regards to upward rising? I'm confused now.
Could I ask for the clarity, and that might help? I think from what I've heard, there's this claim of rocks falling. Is that the sufficiency of the statement that was being addressed, or was it the fuller version that you asked QE with when you came in? Which statement are we dealing with? Just the statement rocks falling, or how you qualified it when you came in?
Is it a natural phenomenon?
We already answered that.
One?
QE said yes.
One?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, why wouldn't it be?
We already covered that though.
You need,
Well,
like I said,
this
you need to
continuing
go
on
over
to-
that with some of your followers because they were saying that it wasn't and
we
trying
got
to
that.
act all smart and sarcastic about it. So
Okay.
Well,
we got all that.
clearly-
Hold on.
clearly you have
Stop.
some
Everyone
people-
stop. No, we got all that. And I even gave you the floor an opportunity to, if you chose to, even berate him for it. If you chose, you didn't though. But instead you said it's not about upward rising Earth. So I then stepped back in thinking, if you're going to berate him for him saying that that's not a natural phenomenon, thinking it was going to lead somewhere in regards to a justifiable evidence potentially for upward rising Earth. But then you decried that. So then I said, well, is it just a personal attack against D. Rose? Because if it doesn't have an associated claim with it, what's the point?
how is his misunderstanding of a natural phenomena a personal attack against him?
Because if that misunderstanding about a natural phenomena has no experimental validity, claim attached, he just didn't appreciate that a rock falling was a natural phenomena, it has no context surrounding it for it to need recording, dedicating to air, used as an example for an audience. It is just literally pointing out ignorance of a panel member. That's all it is. That's why I'm saying it's a personal attack. Unless you contextualize it within, no, this would be a natural phenomena that would prove Earth is rising up. Then definitely not a personal attack. It's right on subject. But you took that away. That's why I'm stepping in. When I stepped out so you could berate D. Rose, if you wanted to. You didn't have to. I'm not saying you should.
No, so if pointing out the ignorance of one of your panel members is a personal attack, then yes, it was a personal attack.
No need. Fine. At least you admitted it. Bloody hell.
Yep.
Now,
You
if I
have
may-
members on your panel that don't even know what the scientific method is. They don't even know what the first step is.
Well,
new.
Just, I'm just pointing that out to you.
Okay. We know some people like to attack the new whipping boy in the G+ panel. It's just going to be how it is. Neil went through it. So did Eli. John, maybe not.
That's hilarious.
Huey.
Now, if I may speak before I go back to screening patients, which I work for a doctor.
No,
That's why I've been
Dumbo.
silent through the whole
Learn what a
show.
phenomena is.
Now,
No, go ahead.
this is the problem. JC's reason for saying that was to back up Dell's upward Earth motion, even though he didn't say it. That's what he implied because he called you, Nathan, a liar for not conceding to Dell's statement by repeating it, which we all know about. Now, this is
a little bit of
this is the
advice,
thing.
brother. Yeah?
Hold on, wait. Let me
No,
finish.
no,
I gotta
no.
go back to
Little bit of
patients.
advice, mate.
Listen to Adam.
First of all, own up. Say, yeah, I got that wrong, right? And there's nothing wrong with being wrong, right? What's wrong is when you don't recognize it. Do that, and then move on to dealing with the argument that might actually involve upward rising Earth. But panel member, have the humility, recognize you were caught out on something. There is no shame in recognizing it. There's shame in refusing to recognize it.
Okay, now I recognize that it is a natural phenomenon. All I responded because of his sarcasm by calling Nathan my daddy last night, and I said his mommy advised me to. It was my way of barking back at him with a sarcastic statement. All I said was, items falling from high shelves in the aisles of Walmart is a natural phenomena with a laughing face. That's all I said. Now, Roto X was the one that he was going back and forth with somebody else as far as arguing about the it not being a natural phenomena. And I can copy and paste that statement from the other party. I never said it wasn't. I just came back at him facetiously because he's been a Dell Dick from the beginning. Now,
So
I'm going
you
back to
never said.
patience.
So you never said that, D Rose.
No, all I did is say was items in a Walmart shelf, top shelf, falling down in the aisle is a natural phenomenon. Ha ha ha.
So what's the problem, Del Backer?
No, that's fine. No, thank you for contextualizing it. I would be eating my words now, saying, no, you've got no justification for berating him. But that does give us a full context now, doesn't it, JC?
But see, leaky dicks acting like that.
JC. Not you. Go ahead, JC. Now we're on to something, right? Go ahead.
No, he's a liar.
Hello,
I want to accuse him of being a liar to me when I
Hello. Neil's got to jump on that bandwagon, and Darwin, no doubt, in a second. JC.
Yeah. First, I'm not going to get into the discussion of upward rising Earth on this platform because we already saw how that happens. But like I said, your sarcastic comment, D Rose, about so I guess overstocked box.
No, we don't do that on this platform. It's that we stop and mute. No, I don't allow that. Where rather than talking about the subject of the nature of Earth, you just want to focus on the personal attack that we narrowed down. No, I don't allow that. Like I didn't allow that with Dell when he started calling me lipstick or tampon or plastic or rich boy. That's the things I don't allow. I desperately tried to get him on to the subject of his primary claim. That was a struggle. But you're saying, no, I won't discuss that, but I will do the ad homs that Dell did. No, I'd rather you discuss the nature of an upward rising Earth if that's what you believe. If you don't want to discuss that, and it is what you believe and why you're involved in the discussion, then that's cowardly.
I want to know why he strawmanned us when it came in. But the first question I asked you was the way in which D Rose described it as you said it to John, or was it just this? And it turns out it wasn't even just this. It was a completely funny analogy. Now, you've come in here, right, and lied to us. And I've said to D Rose, you should apologize. You shouldn't, because you're a liar in the way you came in and what you represented occurred. So does Del know one of his cronies is as good a bigger liar as himself? Isn't that a shame? Isn't that shameful that one of Del's crony members is another big liar?
Let him respond.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking through the chat. Overstocked loss of structural items falling from the top shelf of aisles of Walmart must also be a natural phenomena. Laughing emoji.
Wrong with that?
Yeah. So that has no bearing at all on the way you presented your critique of a panel member, is it? It's a complete misrepresentation. In fact, it's just a downright lie compared to what's written there and what you came in and said.
It's just like Del did.
That
quote.
That post was in response to me citing that falling rocks from cliffs is a natural phenomenon. You don't view that as a sarcastic refutation?
See, the plot thickens. Hold on. So you were originally postulating that natural rocks was a phenomenon, and the response from D Rose in regards to rocks being a natural phenomenon was say, oh, well, if I knock off stuff off a Walmart shelf, you'd call that a natural phenomenon. I see the plot thickens, D Rose.
He's got you, D Rose. He's got you there.
This is getting
fine. He didn't say that's not. He just said, what about this? Now you've assumed. If that's the right.
Oh, don't defend that red herring from D Rose.
Sarcastic stuff.
You're trying to put intent into D Rose's message, which is fine. You've assumed the intent. He may be guilty of it, but from that message, he needs a further admission himself that he's denying.
Yeah, I'm going to assume you're clutching at straws.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to give honest evaluation of it. So you need something to firm up that he disagrees that rocks falling is a natural phenomenon.
Right.
All I can see is a sarcasm that may
Stop. Let's not worry about the sarcasm. Let's not worry about that response. No offense, D Rose. No, you're onto something, JC, and we want to take it there. That's where Adam's hinting at. That's where we want to go. Your original point is the conversation we want to have. I know you originally had it with D Rose, and you're calling him on is repositioning of your original claim in regards to something that definitely would be called a natural phenomena. But for what purpose? Because we're back to that, no, I don't want to talk about upward rising Earth here. We're desperately trying to get back onto that, though, rather than the slant that D Rose has put on it, etc. Go ahead, JC, go ahead. You opened your mic and now you've closed it again.
Sorry, it was for the purpose. It was for the purpose of challenging his claim that rocks falling was not a natural phenomenon. That was the purpose.
We got that covered.
That was your claim.
Hold on. We've dealt with that. But the rocks themselves, was that part of a larger example?
No. No larger example. Like I said, open and close question.
For what reason? It's just folly if it's got no purpose behind it.
I told you the reason. It was challenging his claim that rocks falling was not a natural phenomenon. That was the reason.
Not because you weren't challenging. You postulated.
Hold up. Who's made the claim?
You were the one who postulated it, so you can't be challenging him when you were the one postulating and his response was about Walmart. You must have had a point in mind when you made that point. You made the point about rocks falling, right?
Yeah, but just for a point of note, there's a third party involved in that discussion, which is not being spoken about, which was the direct instigator of the rocks are not a natural phenomenon.
Oh, the plot
so
thickens
Mr. Jason,
further. Who is that? Who's that?
Go back and look at that.
Hold on. Go on, AI.
Mighty Mush. Mighty Mush.
So Mighty Mush was the one that might have had an overarching claim to make here, JC. I see.
Mic check, mic check.
Sound like Delites.
Yes, whoever was mic checking. Who was that?
That was me.
Mighty Mush. Mush.
Yes.
Right, JC, you happy to hand? Just 1 sec, Mighty Mush.
So
just 1 sec, Mighty Mush. That means just stop talking for 1 sec. Are you okay to hand over the mic to Mighty Mush, JC, in this regard?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Hey, Mighty Mush. We're getting somewhere now.
How you doing, bud? Thank you. So the dude posted Dell's video, right?
We just want to know what the rocks... we're immediately off on a tangent. We just want to know what the relevance is.
His point wasn't about the rocks. He posted Dell's video where Dell pushed something off a cliff or something, whatever. I responded to that, and he doesn't know what's a natural phenomenon because of that. Then he went into the rocks. Who cares about the rocks falling?
Sorry, Dell pushed the rocks.
It was about Dell's response to your verbatim.
No. Did the rocks fall naturally, as in a cliff fall, or did somebody push the rocks?
I wasn't even saying.
Well, it's very pertinent whether it's a natural phenomenon or not. This, isn't it? What's being cited as a phenomena now appears to have Dell pushing things.
I think the point was that in one
Hold
of
on, Brian. Brian, hold on. Mush, go ahead.
That's what I was responding to his response to Dell pushing something off of. Oh my God.
They're pushing things at him.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm following directions.
The observed thing that's in debate, whether it's a phenomenon or not, is Dell pushing rocks off a cliff.
Yeah.
So then we're back on D Rose's side, aren't we?
We are and we aren't.
Or has it then been strawmanned into rocks falling, even though the original citation is Dell pushing rocks?
Yes, so Dell pushing rocks would be a substitute for the natural phenomena of rocks detaching themselves Wile E. Coyote style and falling down. Okay, we're all clear. That's been summarised. Everyone else pop yourself on mute just for a second. Okay, with all that in mind, we will take Dell pushing something off the side of a cliff to be akin to, in lieu of, a natural phenomena of rocks falling. Can we all just accept that so we don't get hung up on it for now? Because I'm going to make a further point. Brian, I know you're trying to get something in. Can we just accept that?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah, I'm not going to hang up on that point. Yeah. How else is he going to demonstrate the phenomenon?
Perfect. So, okay, at this stage, accepting that Dell pushing something off a cliff is akin to a rock naturally detaching itself and falling down, a la a rock slide, that we would agree is our naturally observed phenomena. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now, if we're going to validate why something happens, that would be to say the cause of the effect, then we would formulate a hypothesis and put it through the scientific method, vary that which we assume causes the effect. But the effect in this instance has sod all to do with Earth moving. So were we to put this through the scientific method, all we would be establishing is why rocks fall from cliffs. That would be the phenomena that we're studying, and at the end of the scientific process, we would have empirical validation for the cause of rock slides. Say that once more. We would be validating the cause of rocks sliding down cliffs, because that's the phenomena we're studying. Okay. Now, if our slippery opponents on the globe side, or, because it's recent and contextual, our slippery opponents on the upward rising Earth side, infer that the cause of the rock slides is a spinning ball or an Earth rising up, then for it to go through the method of science, you need to vary that which you assume caused the effect. Now, if the supposition is Earth rising up caused those rocks to fall off the cliff, then you're going to need to vary the Earth rising up. At which point you recognise that Earth rising up is A, not something you can vary, and B, absolutely outrageous as a claim in the first instance. Okay, we all clear? Thank you.
You just rushed that. That should have been forced out of them. That was hopefully where I was getting, but this is the ridiculum of what we're doing anyway. I think the fundamental bit, might establish why rocks slide, yeah? Why the sides of mountains weather. So all we're going to investigate in doing this. But I'm still with D-Rose. If the original thing that's being reviewed is Dell kicking something off, then it's perfectly reasonable to come back and go, well, what if I shake this supermarket shelf? Yeah, that's a fair analogy. Now, if the initial premise is just rocks falling, slightly different.
Well, did anyone deny that a rock's falling is not a natural phenomenon? Did anyone actually deny that? Is there a text of someone denying that?
No, we got that cleared up. D. Rose's quip in response was in direct response to the induced effect coming from a man pushing something and saying, well, if I shake these shelves, which is directly equivalent, therefore, no, D. Rose needs to make no apology. We shouldn't be forcing him into Mon. And his quip was actually pretty good. Not only was it good, it's the correct one, because nobody's inferring what I have inferred when I say, no, it's a substitution for a natural phenomena. What we actually have, in effect, is Dell pushing something off the side of a cliff. So, true to form, that's why D. Rose is here. Right? After we've got to all the mush of soup that's been thickening as we talk about it, D. Rose was 100% correct in his position and his response, and it was quite witty. Kudos, D. Rose.
Yeah, because there's have to actually be, because this is all happening through text, I take it. So there'll have to actually be some kind of text or at least audio or something there to support that somebody on our side claimed that rocks falling was not a natural phenomenon, like a rock displacing and
that didn't
being
happen.
displaced.
That didn't happen. That was a misrepresentation.
So nobody made that claim.
No.
That nobody claimed that it wasn't a phenomenon.
No, it was just a bunch of sarcastic comments. Hello. No, it was repositioned by JC, but we got to the nub of that as well. Maybe you weren't paying attention, Brian.
No, it was. I'm just highlighting it. It's the most important point at the present. Sorry, Adam, go on.
I'll make the claim, and then somebody can correct me, and I go, oh, yeah, divvy me. I must have got that right around my head. What? Wow. Even if you did get a panel member to get one thing wrong, right? A noob as well. What does it prove? Does it demonstrate anything other than he's got a little bit more to learn? That sometimes you can get things wrong, like all of us.
It was just a personal attack, but JC conceded that, even stated it explicitly, and got props for stating it. So we've moved past that bit.
No, the initial point was, oh, shame on you and your panel. You can't believe one of your panel members gets this spastic thing incorrect. That's what was brought to us. That was what was proposed to you.
Number one, it was wrong, and D. Rose was correct in every regard. And number two, he acknowledged that it was just a personal attack. We've had all this. Anyway.
Yeah, but I want something else JC said. Sorry.
Well, hold on. Is it in relation to an all or nothing fallacy where everything we say can be disregarded because of the possibility of one thing being wrong, or is it
That's
just
what
a
it is. It's
personal
an
attack?
all or nothing fallacy. That's what I was. The penny has just dropped for something that I've been trying to summarise verbally for quite some time, John. When I say the standard, do you know when I talked earlier about the standards that we have to achieve? You so much as misspeak, everything you say is bunk. That's an all or nothing fallacy, isn't it? So the reason our standards are so high is because as flat earthers, we are subject to the all or nothing fallacy in respect to every single word that we disseminate always. We are not allowed to make mistakes because if we do, they're held against you for the next 10 years, even if you concede them.
Exactly. We're going to be held to every little thing we ever got wrong, and everything is recorded and remembered and played back to us or shown in text forever. So everything we ever got wrong, we're stuck with. There's no such thing. We don't have a free pass. We don't have a get out of jail card ever.
Right. So
Father said that.
we
They're a
talked
bunch of
about this
Delites.
before the show. Right. We talked about this before the show goes. Some people just want to show up to take a big dump in the middle of the table rather than put their claim and evidence on the table.
Sound familiar?
But do you see what we're dealing with fundamentally? It's like with the ballers crap, really, isn't it? We're not dealing with anything that's of any value. What is it? One of your panel members got some minute thing wrong.
Yeah, but
Wow.
that's what they're doing.
For that to be motivating on their side is the sad, pathetic thing.
Well, did you see the video?
So you don't care if one of your panel members doesn't know what a natural phenomena is? Is that what you're saying?
No, he did. We've already covered this. He did know what a natural phenomena was. He's making the comparison to Dell pushing something off a cliff, which is not a natural phenomena, in his quip. We clarified this, JC.
When did Dale push something off a cliff?
In the video that was linked, we clarified that with mush.
Which video?
The original
The one that the discussion was about, according to mush.
Oh, you mean where you, Nathan, said that when you push something, you give it energy? Is that the one we're talking about?
Oh, one where Dal made up a quote that he hasn't given. Did he quote me?
There's a video, Nathan.
Sorry, did he
There's a
quote me?
video.
Did he quote me?
No, it's in a video and it's in a different context. And that's what you were trying to tell him yesterday.
Yeah, but hang on, we're going to finish with red herring here first. Hang on, we're going to go back to that in a second. No,
I'd like to
hang on,
respond
JC, which panel member?
Hold on, Brian.
Can you get the
Hold on,
text or
Brian.
the
Hold on, Brian.
audio?
Hold on. Go ahead, JC.
I'd like to respond to what AI just said. I got no problem presenting evidence for my claims, but I'm not going to do it on this platform. In 24/7, I'd totally be down to have a discussion with you or QE or anyone if it's fairly moderated.
Why would a discussion have to be moderated? What do you mean?
Why can't you make the claim here?
Why?
Aren't
we
we
all want to hear it.
He just said why. Why don't you come over to 24/7, dude?
Sorry, John. Why did he say I didn't catch it?
He just said that you're not a fair moderator, that he won't make the claim here. That's his position, which is odd because he needs a false dichotomy to argue with. We've already established all these things.
My question is, and I haven't spoken yet. Hang on, I haven't spoken yet. My question is, if that's the case, why is he here?
I was going to say, well, that's the end of that temp, isn't it? If you don't want to make a point here, what are you doing here? I've come over to say I'm not going to make a point over here.
Because some of the things you discuss are interesting.
Fair enough. But I mean,
doesn't mean
personally,
is that an all or nothing fallacy? Just because I agree with and find some of the things you talk about interesting, that means I have to agree with everything you say?
Yeah, it is. Not
No,
bad.
the problem is,
Not
Mush
bad.
came here.
Joe.
Hang on. The problem is that Mush gave context to what D-Rose was saying. And you didn't give that context. You don't even know the video existed of Dell pushing something.
But we just want to find out the information, though, JC, right? Whereas you're saying you need fair moderation. Well, yesterday with Dell...
Yeah, which isn't you.
Yeah, we got that. Thanks, JC. But yesterday with Dell, Do you not appreciate that I was desperately struggling to get the information out of him, but all he did was give me personal attacks in return?
No, all I heard was you being deliberately obtuse and overly pedantic and a lot of straw manning. I mean, that's just honest criticism.
Okay. Well, could you give me an example of me being deliberately obtuse, please, in that context with the discussion yesterday? Where was I deliberately obtuse?
How about the part where you put me on server mute for the rest of the show for asking you if some objects accelerate towards the Earth?
What, while I was having a discussion with Dell?
Oh, that was you? What an asshole.
No,
that's not obtuse.
Sorry, that's not being obtuse. Correct. Thank you, Brian. I asked for an
It's called
example of me being
moderating a
obtuse.
show.
You said I was deliberately obtuse? I'll move on to the other two afterwards.
No, you won't stand behind a claim because you know you can't defend them.
That's a generalization. I want a specific example of me being obtuse deliberately in context of the discussion yesterday. If you can't give me one, we'll move on to me straw manning Dell, and you will offer an example where I straw man Dell. Because these are the reasons why you don't want to offer up your claim. So far, deliberately obtuse, fail. You haven't given me a contextual example yet. Maybe you will. We'll move on to straw mans next.
Oh, familiar silence.
Well, this is an example of Nathan being unfair and asking him for evidence for his claim for obtuseness. I can see where he's going.
You could reasonably say this was me being deliberately pedantic, right? By asking for an example to back a claim. That's pedantic, apparently.
Nathan, one of your own panel members called you out for it yesterday, bud. I mean, come on.
Is this an example?
Example of one of your own panel members calling you out for having a shitty discussion?
No. An example where you claimed you won't give us your discussion points, argumentation that needs heavy moderation, apparently, because I am deliberately obtuse, pedantic, and I use straw men. In regards to the discussion yesterday, I'm being interrupted for some reason. Is this the fair moderation you need, where you just get to chant through me while I point out the three things you've said as reasons for not telling us about your upward rising Earth? It's like pulling teeth. I mean, what I could do is go on to examples where I don't receive fair moderation, or John doesn't receive fair moderation, but we've got the truth on our side, so we still tolerate arseholes muting us. Like me getting muted over on Earth Chronicles? Was that fair moderation? No, but I've got the truth on my side, so I can grin and bear it. You need to interrupt my example of where I don't get fair moderation, but you need it for this example. And why you need it is because I am obtuse, pedantic, and use straw men. So far, you failed to give me an example of being deliberately obtuse. So can you give me an example of where I used a straw man argument on Dell, bearing in mind that I wasn't making a claim to utilize a straw man? But there we go. You can give me the example now, so you can justify your cowardice in regards to not giving us your points about Earth rising up because of my straw man techniques that I'm using. Go ahead, give me the example from yesterday.
No, because I would have to watch.
No, then shut up and sit down. You mean you're just lying about me using straw men?
My bad.
Are you lying? Where's the straw man that I used with Dell? Hello? You've made a claim. People don't seem to understand. When they make claims here, they get held to task. It doesn't matter if it's about me personally. It doesn't matter if it's about Earth rising up. I'd rather focus on the latter. But to prove my point, that people come here, make claims, and when they get held to task for their claims, they shut down, say they've got other things to do, say they don't have discussion, say they need fair moderation. This isn't a discussion about Earth we're having now. He's shut down because I've asked him to back 3 things he's just said. Positive claims he's made. Yeah? Okay. You claim straw men were used. I'm trying to detach this from being about me, because it doesn't matter. Okay. Let's hear where a straw man was used in respect to Dell's position. Can you give me that, JC, or not?
Nope, not at the moment.
So why the fuck did you say it about me then, you piece of shit?
Because it's true.
So it's true in spite of you not having a single example of it?
No, I could get
you. You like fiddling with children. That's what you like doing. You're a kiddie fiddler, aren't you? Hello? You like fiddling with children. It's just true, isn't it, JC? I don't have any examples to give you, but it's just true because I say so. Correct? Yeah, you see how this is asshole behaviour? When people say I've used a straw man and I ask them to show it or demonstrate it and they say I don't have an example of what I've just claimed you do, it makes you a massive prick. Do you understand that, JC? It's not that you need fair moderation. It means you need a platform where you can get away with being a massive prick. That's what you need, isn't it? One where you can make baseless assertions, like, the host used straw men. Really? Which straw men did he use? I don't have an example. So you're a massive prick.
I told you I could get you an example, just not now.
You like Dell could get my quote? Like that sort of you could go and get it later? No, if you're going to say I use straw men, I expect you to have the example to hand now for you to have said it. Not, I say you are using straw men, I could, future tense, go and get you an example of the claim I've just laid at your door. No, here the standards are a lot higher, JC. If you say I've used straw men, you better damn well have an example of it to hand, and if you haven't, you get called a shit. A coward. Because you're saying you won't offer your upward rising earth claim because of the straw men I've used. No, I haven't. You don't have any examples of me using straw men. You're just a coward with a crap excuse and lies.
And probably mostly projecting.
Well, I remember that.
No offense to you or nothing, bro. Real quick. No offense to nothing, but I mean, if it just happened yesterday, I would think if you were going to stand on this straw man that you say Nathan had, like you would have it, even if you can't directly quote it, maybe paraphrase it, maybe just put a bit of context on it, but you just don't have anything. But that's what you're going to stand on. It's a little weird.
No, it's not weird. Hang on, Brian. I'll finish quick. It's not weird. It's just like the ether argument. It's there. We don't have any proof for it, but tomorrow I might have something.
Yeah, well, the person he's talking about there that was saying it to Nathan, or saying to Nathan, I can't remember exactly how JC said it, that one of your panel members even agreed. No, what I was trying to have happen there was to get to Dell's claim. And so we don't have this situation happen where you or someone else can turn around and say, Nathan is unfair, Nathan is this, Nathan is that, is that. No, I wanted to be given the opportunity to ask Dell the questions. I eventually did get an opportunity to ask him. And when I asked him them questions, he gave me, after a little bit of to and fro, I did get his claim out of him. But then when I asked him questions about his claim, the first thing he did is contradict himself, and then went straight past it. And then he gave me a bad answer to a second question and no answer, only a laugh to a third question.
Okay, stop a second. So, just for the audience's benefit, Brian is talking about Brian clarifying with Dell about the neutralization of an effect once relative density is taken out of the equation for his rising up Earth. He clarified that was the case. And then, 3 minutes later, used relative density in his explanation. Brian took umbrage for obvious reasons and pointed out that, and then it descended into chaos. So Brian's saying, I get clarity about what will and won't be in effect in your paradigm. You agree, and then immediately contradict yourself 3 minutes later. Right, Brian?
Yeah, but then walk straight past that and not want to deal with it. Not want to address the contradiction. That was the problem. And then when I asked the second question, I was given a bad answer to the second question. And my third question, I just got a laugh. So, I mean, if Nathan had left me off from the start, then that would have been what would happen on the show, because that's the exact route I would have taken, regardless of what point I got in.
No, it wouldn't. Like this guy. So in the same way, I've pleaded with this guy to get to his claim, and he won't do it. He'll go to how I'm straw manning and being deliberately obtuse. No, I'm not. Total lies, total bullshit. Is that me specifically saying I want to be discussing your upward rising claim, Earth, and him saying no, I will not? Very similar to Dal, right?
Well, if you think about let's say the point I'm making, Nathan, is that if you had left me off at the start, I would have asked Dal the same questions, and the same line of questioning would have happened. So nobody would now be able to say that Nathan is bad, or that Nathan is this, or that show is no good, or there's no fair moderation, because that's where it's going to go to. Because I knew that the questions I had to ask, that there wasn't going to be answers for. Even the question that Del did answer, when I asked him, I said, how come the stone falls down faster than the balloon rises up? Right? The helium balloon rises up. He said the stone is decelerating. But if the helium balloon is rising up due to an Earth rising up, so if the Earth is going up at a constant velocity of 1,000 miles per hour, then the balloon is going up at 1,000 miles an hour. But if the stone is decelerating, then the stone is slowing down. So that would be the opposite from reality, where the balloon will go up faster than the stone goes down. But in reality, the stone goes down faster than the balloon goes up. And I got no answer previously when I asked the question that you just referenced, Nathan, was when I asked how come an air-filled balloon and a helium balloon don't behave the same then, if all density differential effects and weight is nullified. And he said density. But density is nullified. He admitted it was nullified. Yes, he tried to use relative density for why the air-filled balloon didn't behave the same as the helium balloon. And when I asked him, how does an airplane take off and how does it hold an altitude, he just laughed. So if that had just happened at the start, then nobody would be able to... Sorry,
in
just 1 second.
that
If
scenario,
that
you
just
would
happened
need
at the
an
start...
additional medium.
And let me finish. If that had happened at the start, then nobody would be able to point a finger at Nathan now. Because all that's happening now is that bowl Nathan. That's all that's happening now. And nobody understood why Nathan did what he did. I understood why Nathan was doing what he was doing. I understood why he was doing what he was doing.
Well, if the phenomenon is a rock falling, right, like it seems to be the implication, then why would you deny that phenomenon and say that's not what is actually happening? The Earth's actually rising up to meet a rock. It doesn't make sense.
Because his argument isn't about rocks falling. It's about density gradient.
Go ahead, there.
His argument entirely relies on density gradients and showing or creating density gradients with objects either in acceleration or standing still, like, a beaker or a bottle. So what he's doing is he's correlating density gradients that are on the Earth with the density gradients in his bottle, and that's basically what it is. And so he's saying, if I can create a density gradient with acceleration or speed, then there's a density gradient on the Earth, therefore the Earth is moving.
And if I can create a density gradient with temperature, therefore the Earth is not moving.
What it was proving. And you didn't say it was proving Earth's moving up. It's because you seem to be under the misapprehension that you can replace Earth moving up with a density gradient.
Is the Earth stationary?
Is it a stutter much?
Is the Earth stationary, Nathan?
I'm not making a claim, Del. You're claiming Earth moves up and then substituting that claim which you are yet to demonstrate with a density gradient.
There is a density gradient.
That's not Earth moving up, though, is it, Dumbo?
I claim that it is. I claim that it is.
It's not Earth moving up.
I claim that it is.
It's not Earth moving up.
Yes, it is.
Oh, really? There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, there it is. Yes, right on, AI. And that's the bit I collared and trimmed out from that little 2 or 3 hours with Del, maybe less. Because that was the most relevant point. What he's doing is taking a density gradient and turning it into Earth moving up. It's that simple.
Yeah, I can give you guys a concrete parallel example. So we all know Mr. Bill Nye. He has this little episode where he takes a boat and he has it go on a mechanical track over a curve. He shows with his camera that you can't see the bottom of the boat. He then says, in nature or out in the wild, you look out across water and you can't see the bottom of the boat. So because you can't see the bottom of the boat in my mechanical example that I demonstrated to you, and it was caused by Earth curve, then that means that this example out in the wild is also caused by Earth curve. Okay? It's the same logical fallacy.
Yeah, affirming the consequent.
Until they have to take an elevation angle measurement.
Now that AI Overlord explained that, and you all went through the citation, why would JC be in an argument where he talks about rocks falling with a panel member to prove, like, what was the larger point to be made then,
No,
if
he
it had
didn't.
nothing to do?
No, he wasn't. He didn't. I mean, why would he, given the straw man and obtuse nature of the show?
No, he came in because yesterday someone got a whooping. And I haven't even heard the whole show, but that segment's pretty good that you just played. So he came in the day after, accuses one of our side who is at work and can't really talk, but said, no, that's not the true context of what I said. Then, perchance, Mush is in Discord. Mush comes in and Mush says, yes, I saw a video and Dell is pushing something, a rock or something. So now we get more evidence as to why D Rose was sarcastic with the Walmart shelf when it was shaken. That makes that guy who came, JC, I think his name, he's butthurt and he wants to take out one of our panel members with out of context stories. Thank goodness Mush was around to give it more context.
Well, I've got a lot of this upward rising Earth claims. I've heard most of them, and most of the supposed proof of them via Rachie, and I have come across nothing that was a proof of anything. Most of it was just people misunderstanding what was going on, if I remember correctly. I've heard nothing. An airfilled balloon and a helium balloon must behave the same under those conditions. There is no way out of it. Helium balloon and an airfilled balloon do not behave the same. That's the end of that. I don't see how you can go. How can you go past that? How can you go past that, Ted? Something that completely debunks all of your claims. Something you admit doesn't exist. Density differential effects. Weight doesn't exist. Then you're given an example where something can only happen due to density, and you just walk past that. Yeah. And then you want the person pointing it out to go and have a debate on your show with you. No way.
Good point, Brian.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, how can you walk past that?
Well, I got to go, but let me summarize. That was perfect. To the summary I was thinking of saying before I left, and that is, when the feast of nonsense comes from the globe side, Nathan does the same thing. When the feast of nonsense comes from our side, Nathan does the same thing. What is the same thing? He says, make your claim. Well, you said, no, I'm not making a claim. Make your claim. Yeah, but in the past, we heard on your show, you said, no, I understand. But since I'm not doing that right now, make your claim. They don't understand the rules for debate is to win with winning arguments. And you're not going to allow for fallacious reasoning to occur right at the first instance. And so Nathan is saying, okay, make a claim. Well, you said, no, you make a claim. Yeah, but you see, whether the Feast of Nonsense is globe-centered or flat Earth-centered, it still gets dealt the same way here.
Well said.
We'll catch you tomorrow.
Later, Tim.
See you later.
Later.
Well, I would like to hear the neutral position you can take when someone's not making a claim. Like, for the neutral platform to exist, like, what if you're not making a claim? How can you be neutral?
I have a question. Sorry, John. My question is, when you're just pointing out reality, is that considered making a claim?
I don't think it is. I know what you're talking. To me, it's not. It
It's a
points out
claim
reality.
when the reality of the density tower is told that the reason the density is and buoyancy are playing out is because the Earth's moving upwards. That's a claim.
Right. I'm just getting to just pointing out reality, right? Just saying. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go on,
I just wanted to answer your question. So everyone experiences down, right, in their life. Like, if I drop a heavy object right now in this room, it's going to go down. Okay.
Yep.
That's not a claim. A claim is down is
Right.
inwards to a giant floating space ball. But when someone says down, right, how do you know that they mean down? How do you know that they mean down or they mean inwards? You see the difference?
Yeah,
No, there is no difference, is there? Because it's again, and this is the shilliness of Dell's behavior. It's dropping your standards. The standards to destroy that center of a mass down, yeah, were very useful. We applied those standards. Yet there's people like Dell and Whitsitt on the side with Ether and stuff that have abandoned these standards that got us to become flat earthers, yeah, and they're now being soothsayers, pariahs of wisdom by abandoning the very standards. That's the criticism I hold for these guys. I've got no problem with you suggesting it, but apply the same standards of judgment. And when it becomes as apparent as it is, just admit it was a bad idea. Yeah, instead of going on and turning this into an ad hom shit fest, which, like I say, to me, is very, very shilly behavior. It's not becoming of any of us. It does the cause no good, the community no good, and people just coming in and lowering our standards.
Agreed.
Yeah, because the standards that people who are claiming this are holding themselves to are lower standards than they're holding the borders to.
But they know better. They've known. So the only thing that you can conclusion, they're doing this on purpose to be disruptive and to mislead people.
It's even worse.
Well,
Or
I
there's
don't
the
see how.
possibility.
Sorry, John. Go on.
I was going to say, or the possibility is that they have a belief structure that they've assumed is absolutely true. And when someone attacks it and in their mind destroys it, since their belief structure can't be wrong, it has to be us doing a dirty trick. And that's the place they have to go, is to assume that there's a straw man that has to be being employed, or someone is being obtuse, or there has to be another overriding reason that this wasn't accepted.
Well, I can create a pressure and density gradient within a sealed container with temperature. I can do that. How come that's been ignored?
The reason they're doing it is because they're not prepared to apply the same standards, John. Yeah? This is what, so we get into this fanciful tale where we might mitigate because people are being mean against certain sections, yeah? But the real reason is because the same standards that they've applied, they've now abandoned to pump this fantasy that is not sustainable and not accessible by the standards that they applied to the ball when they got rid of that.
Well, I mean, I guess you could call it an agenda, but I don't know if they necessarily know that that they're aware that it's an agenda.
No, that was aware.
I don't know. Is Dell aware of the temperature gradient that we have? Is Dell aware? Was Dell aware of me? Was Dell aware of the presentation I made on the whole subject a couple of years ago? I mean, is it just purely a case of, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, a lack of information and understanding on something?
No, Brian, because when it was brought to his attention, he stiffened up and thought.
Sounding like you're in the toilet, Neil. Can't hear you.
Yeah,
but the reason I asked the question is, like, even if your attempt is to reverse the burden and ask somebody to prove out their claim, if your claim is simply stating what happens in reality, is that a claim that needs to be substantiated, or can I just point at reality and say, hey, look, that's what happens?
Well, what are you saying? Like, if something's axiomatic, do you need to
prove it?
I'm not sure. Like, give an example.
Like, if I just say, hey, some things go up some things go down, some things remain neutral. Is that a claim that I have to support? Because that's just something I can just point at in reality.
No, it's just an observation you're making of reality.
Right.
You haven't made any claim about it. Sorry, Adam.
Right.
I just say that's all it is, observation.
Okay. And I don't have to prove what I've observed if I can observe it, right? So it's like right there. So when the reversal of the burden of proof comes up, and that's what we're saying, that some things go up, some things go down, some things remain neutral. It's not a claim that needs to be supported because that's just reality.
Well, hold on. You're talking about a different standard because, you know, measurement is a standard in what is, right? Like you're talking about what happens or what always happens too, because it depends on whether you're going to be talking about natural law versus a phenomenon, right? So there's some different standards that will apply depending upon what you do claim.
Yeah, I get you.
Depends on the question, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And then hit you into an algorithm of what method you're going to use to evaluate it, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
There you go.
You said a lot better than what I was trying to say. Nothing. But yeah, I guess it would depend.
Looks like we got to get a fair platform, folks.
Would that be a platform where contradictions are allowed?
Yes.
And the claims of the opposite of reality? Because it seems that's what a fair platform is. Because I did give the conversation that Del said he was looking for. Then he walked straight past the first answer he gave me contradicted the claim I just got out of him.
But he can't keep track. That's why he just goes on ranting and raving with ad homs.
But he said he wanted a conversation.
Yeah, but with a conversation, that means you get to talk your part of a story without people getting involved with it.
Right, you're right.
That's what that means. It's just be able to do your talk without anybody interrupting, even for good reason. And just go with the story. That's the way that he thinks it works, because a lot of people out there, including flat earthers, operate that way. You invite somebody over, they get to talk their story. Nobody actually goes into a debate because I guess a lot of people just can't handle it. It turns into a shit show. And Dell's a living example of that.
He wanted to come on, talk about his little demonstration.
No, he was using false equivalency because he was equivocating what's happening in a car with which is a lateral, let's say forward-backwards movement of a car, as opposed to what's happening up and down. For a third, that's a false equivalency because it's in the wrong orientation. That's first. So that's nullified straight away. Not that it matters, you know what I mean? What's happening in the car. But the point is that it's not the up and down; it's what's happening in a car. So you can't marry the two things together. The two things are different. Because that's maybe you can't marry the two things together.
Can I add something?
Please.
I'm guilty of not doing this, but I forced myself to do it. Forget the points that are being made and take a big picture look outside. What's going on?
It's summer and it's beautiful weather.
Now, take a look at the big picture, or a bigger picture, I would say, and with
I know where you're going with this. I think.
How do I want to use this? Yeah, don't take into account the points or the claims or the non-claims. Just take a step back, and then what is happening about that?
Can I answer?
I was just doing it rhetorically to get people to think about it. And what is happening out there? What is actually happening? Go ahead. I guess you could. Yeah.
Well, what's happening is the same thing that brought us to the problem we're in now. You have a load of people making a load of claims that they don't have actual support for, and people going along with these things, ridiculous claims, and that's why we ended up in heliocentrism.
Right. NASA replacement syndrome.
Yeah. That's what I see happening. There's a lot of people going off in tangents with different things, upward rising out, ether, different things. And it's all based around things that haven't been proven.
Yeah, but QE said that.
So we're going to end up back where we started. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong. So what's that? Correct me if I'm wrong, QE. Is that the point?
I don't think I didn't want a right or wrong answer. I just wanted people just to think about it. That was a very interesting take there, by the way.
Thank you. And Neil, you've been saying that, and I've been saying that with you as well from some time ago concerning dielectric acceleration and that. Like, that's what got us into this problem. You know, accepting things that haven't been proven. You know, the proof will come later, kind of thing, and it never came, kind of like for gravity.
Whose problem?
What do you mean, Chocolate?
You said that's what put us in this problem. Are we making claims we can't back up?
Yeah, but what I'm talking about heliocentrism in general, we're in a position where we have a lot of people believing that they're on a globe orbiting the sun in a big, massive universe, whereas none of this stuff has ever been validated. But we got there because people started allowing little mistruths or little unproven things. It's okay. It's kind of right. You know what I mean? We can assume it's right. This kind of thing. And that's how we ended up in the position we're in. And we're going to end up back in the same position, not the same, but exactly similar in time to come with all these crazy claims that are going on from Flat Earth.
And who's the cause of it? Flat Earthers.
Yeah, people are the cause. People are always the cause, rather than Flat Earthers, Globe Earthers. People are the cause.
But it's coupled from the Flat Earth side. Look at Dell. Look at Richard. It's all coming from the Flat Earth side.
No, it's coming from the claims on the globe side are just as ridiculous. Maybe more. But the point is that people are the problem. People don't learn from their mistakes. Humanity doesn't learn from its mistakes. It just wants to make them all over again. Let's focus on the Earth going up and the rising up. Let's focus on ether. Instead of focusing on what we should be focusing on, which is proving things in reality. And accepting what we can't prove and what we don't know, at least for now, maybe ever. But we're not doing that. People going off on all kinds of tangents.
And as an ancillary benefit, where do all those quote unquote claims finally come to?
Here.
Yeah. Okay, they come to here. Then what's the result?
They go away.
Come back.
Yesterday.
The evil fed bad guys.
Yes, whining and complaining, format fallacy, the usual.
Don't look at those guys over there. They're the bad guys. They're evil. Don't go over there.
Yeah, they're the ones asking us to substantiate our claims. Don't listen to them. They're bad. Evil.
Nathan uses the mute button all the time.
There
right? Except for right after being asked a question, and then we get 2 minutes of silence. But the rest of the time, he uses the mute button, right?
They could not to the bad guy.
Especially when he asks a question and gives a direct silence for that question to be responded to.
Now maybe Nathan's pushing the mute button like in their head when that happens, because he's not doing it on the computer. That's for sure.
No, they get an open space to talk. You say, "Oh, is the mic mine?" Yeah.
There's one of those bad guys that just joined. Adam.
Hello.
We're lost, man. What are we gonna do?
Quickly, Captain. Let me just get the height of that photograph, sir.
When you walk out the back door, the wall to the left where the bathroom is.
So be on guard, FED members. You're about to be outed.
Outed?
We already been excommunicated.
Haven't they been doing that for like 8 years now? Like, am I lost?
They've been doing it off and on all the time, but a lot of these other flat earthers out there, and we had this with the people that like Globusters too, is that it's such a playground popularity contest game that they play. It's so pathetic because it's like as soon as you disagree, they all of them, the trolls, everybody, and then it's like, oh, a moment where it's just civil and it's like, cool, no argument, and then they're all like, oh okay, we're gonna leave you alone, man. There's no actual argumentation behind any of it. It's just a bunch of peer pressure bullshit. That's what they do.
It's playground time. Get ready, FED. You're out at the playground. No more basketball for you.
Right, they used to do that to me in school, by the way, when I would like publicly speak against something that everybody seemed to agree upon, but I didn't. And they would like, oh no, you don't get to play with us.
Yeah, because everyone
that works. It's peer pressure.
Because everyone thought girls were smoking and you didn't.
Right. What? Smoking? No. But yeah, it is a proper type of example. It's like, I'm not playing the game that they want you, that you need to play to be cool. So it's some stupid thing.
Wait, what?
I wasn't actually, there was no smoking in that school. The kids weren't smoking secretly.
You're still not getting it.
Yeah.
Maybe thought the
Smoking
girls
hot.
were
Can you elucidate me?
smoking, like smoking, or not smoking.
Smoking? Oh, okay.
Yeah. There you go.
He still didn't get it.
The smoking came later.
You gotta forgive him.
That was in my teens. Smoking.
No, when the girls were smoking hot.
Well, the girls in my class were they were nice though, and they were very female, and I did like them, but that's because I was a horny little bastard.
Oh, bro.
But they were not particularly stunning. It was kind of like preteen. So yeah, I mean the actual attract like in the teenage school stuff. So
you know it's 2023 when you have to describe girls back in the day as very female. That's hilarious.
no, but I didn't mean very female as in super sexual voluptuous, but just like classical female behavior, and like, we are girls, we are women, we're supposed to get children, like that. And that's something you don't see anymore.
Yeah, you didn't have a Diane the Rocker in your class.
Sorry, what?
Everybody didn't have a Diane the Rocker in their class.
I don't know what that is. Maybe.
Smoking hot girl with a short skirt.
What?
Diane the Rocker was a smoking hot girl in a short skirt.
I'm not old enough to know that. I have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, there's been a lot of very hot women in the past that are very cute, and they don't have to be complete sluts for it.
I didn't think that's a new twist. Are we still on this? I left and came back. We're still on Hot Girls. Did you figure it out yet? It was just a backhanded fight towards Arwen. It was nothing.
Thanks. Well, I know that I've been single for almost a decade, so yeah, that's fine.
It wasn't a personal. I wasn't getting personal. I wasn't going to drag you around the neighborhood. What did I? It was just one of those funny little things. Nothing. I don't know your personal life at all. It
Well,
wouldn't matter.
Some about it.
It would still hold.
Well, I talked about it anyway. I do this sort of thing all the time on my show. So for me, this is like nothing new. This is not like, oh my God, Arwin, are you sure? No, I talk about my very personal life and my past all the time on my show. So nothing new to me. Maybe to you. Maybe you think it's a bit
Maybe it was just personal slight, man. It was just one, between friends and stuff. Just a little jab and stuff. Didn't have to go on for 20 minutes. Did you get it yet?
That's my revenge, you see.
It's just playful.
Yeah. And I'm giving you a playful, in-depth response.
All right. Fair enough.
Not playful. It's very serious, actually. But
making you look more guilty. The more you try to explain inconsequential events, it makes you look more guilty.
Guilty of what?
The slight.
I heard what you said.
What?
We can move on. There's bigger fish to fry.
What type of fish?
Red herring.
Like red herring.
Baklava.
Baklava?
Baklava.
You better pick this conversation up, man, and I'm out of here.
No, don't go.
Yeah, I will. What we have going on at the moment is a situation where a lot of people are presuming that the ballers are defeated, and now we can just go off and make up our own horse manure. That's what we have. We have a lot of factions who are looking past. Yeah, it's like in a battle, and you're going to go, they're all beat, and there's still a billion of them.
Well, NASA replacement syndrome, right? When you win, well, what then? Well, you either dissolute, just give up. You keep repeating the same thing over and over again, which gets kind of tedious. Or you try to make up a new story because there's a big market for all these flat earthers just figured out that the big story is fake. They're going to secretly want a new story. So it happens. This happens. I mean, I sort of do it, but I'm being very careful about making claims despite. But yeah, I do definitely provide okay, but what could it be, and how would it work? And it gets a bit science fiction-y, but I'm very clear about it when I do. So
yeah, you don't mind going into science fiction as long as you are clear that it is science fiction.
Yes, exactly.
There's nothing wrong with it.
So the thinking of it's like, how do you think about these things without getting confused? So that you really start to understand what science fiction really is, what it has been, and what the influence is. There's a lot of people, especially during the 20th century, that really believed science fiction we get to see on television is predicting the future. They're making the future, and people basically, by watching it, get used to it, and they accept it. And then it's agreed upon because of that, and then it comes into being. The industry catches up on science fiction. Right? So that's a process that has happened. I'm sort of attempting to do something like that by just okay, what can we figure out about what we could run into out there beyond the known limits of where we go? What could be there? What could that implicate? Right? And that's what I like to think about. Just how would it work slightly beyond what we know?
Yeah, but as long as you know and you're clear that that's just science fiction, because you'd have known that these are things you're postulating. There's nothing wrong with postulation. Postulation is brilliant. But if you do it all the time, you start believing that it's not postulation. You start believing that it's somewhat real, which is the problem we're in at the moment with heliocentrism. A lot of people believing all kinds of rubbish.
Well, the point is they lose track because it starts with, I'm really convinced that this is probably the thing that it is. And then you get confused up with, no, this is it, because you've been defending it and it got a little harsh. And then you get really aggressive about it. No, this is reality.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!